on a second. All right. Welcome everyone to my YouTube channel. My name is Stef. I am the Psychic Soul Alignment Coach, and I'm very excited about today's video because today's video, we're going to be talking about levels of consciousness, I hope, in business. But right now I have Jessica here joining me to talk about this subject because I want to speak on it. I did touch on it a little bit in my previous video on the conscious roundtable conversations that I did. So I will link it up here in the card section for you to go and check that out. And I did address it there a little bit, but I wanted to go more in depth today. And so in my Facebook community, I just put out there a message saying like, hey, does anyone want to talk about this topic more in depth? And Jessica answered the request. And so we're here today to speak on that subject. And we were just chatting right now. She was telling me, you know, how she found me and how she appreciates my work, and we were just like crying over here, happy tears and stuff, and just the conversation started flowing. So I decided, okay, let me just go ahead and record this, and then we will hopefully eventually get to this conversation. So if we don't, I'm just trusting spirit wanted us to go in a different direction, and I will eventually do this video. But we're just going with the energy right now. So Jessica's question to me, because you know, she was telling me how much she appreciated me showing up and helping people on this journey. And I was telling her how like it's not easy being a spiritual teacher, teaching people how to build spiritual businesses, especially for me, like the way I work, because everyone's different. All the different spiritual entrepreneurs that are out there helping people start businesses, they're different. And so my thing here is that I'm really doing my best to serve God, creator, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, and to work in the highest good of humanity, of the universe, of everyone. And so with that, I've had to go through very, very difficult lessons and experiences to mold me and shape me into who I need to be in order to really teach people those things and help them to also become the highest version of themselves to do the work that they're here to do. And so along that journey, I've wanted to quit so many times. Like I've been broken down like to tears. You know, I found myself on my knees just being like, God, I'm tired of this. Like I just want to give up. And if you've been following me, you know, at least the last few months or so, like back in November, I had like another crisis and I was just like, God, I'm quitting. And I stopped for 2 weeks. And then I was like, who am I kidding here? Like, I can't quit. My purpose is always going to call me forward, and I have to keep going. So Jessica's question to me was like, can I give an example on a moment, an instance when I've been at this very low point in my life and I wanted to quit? And I have a lot, but hopefully I guess we'll see which one I need to pull from right now. I guess, you know, there have been times, especially, so everyone's here to go through different things because of our unique karma. By the way, if you hear some noise in the background, that's like a juicer. Ignore that.
Awesome.
But we all have our unique karma. And so we've come into the world with our own stuff that we have to work through time and time again until we clear it up. You know, that's part of the reason of being here. And so depending on, you know, what your unique karma is, you're going to have a lot of times a lot of challenges and struggles with particular areas of life. And so for me, I came into this life already with a bunch of karma that I had to live out for myself, as well as, you know, what I inherited from my family, which for me was a lot to do with relationships. So just familial relationships, romantic relationships, relationships with myself, and then also with money and with career, which is why I've been so challenged in all of these areas. And especially with, you know, money and career, that's been such a big thing for me where, you know, it's made me want to quit. Because obviously Jessica and I were discussing earlier how like when you want to create a business from this, you obviously, if you can do it as a side passion, you know, and that takes a lot of courage to be able to do and put yourself out there for people. A lot of times letting people know like, hey, I have these abilities, or I believe in this, and you talk about these things, and usually your inner circle or the people that know you don't agree, and they think all kinds of crazy things about you. But then when you actually want to like take that a step forward or step up, and then you want to start making money from that, you know, that brings on another can of worms, as they say, that you have to like work through in order to actually be able to do that successfully. And so for me, I've been challenged in so many ways in regards to my my career and money, and in order to be who I am and to do the work that I'm doing. So a time that I can share of where I was just kind of like brought to my knees around this is, it was last year. And it was not last year, the year before or something. And I was in a toxic relationship. And, it was the first time that I had really been in a very toxic relationship. I've had little minor issues here and there with past partners, but that relationship was just heavily toxic. And, I think one of the things that maybe sometimes some spiritual people fall trapped to is we're very naive. And especially me, like I try to see the good in people and I try to see them in their highest form. And so I just kept unconsciously and consciously, I guess, making excuses for this person. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't even know where to go there, but I try to be so forgiving and so loving and understanding of this person to my own detriment. And then before I knew it, I was being manipulated like crazy. And I was in a very narcissistic relationship where the person gaslighted me a lot. And I was like, trying to be a normal person, like, hey, let's talk about this problem. And then they would somehow turn it on me. And it made me like the bad person. And I'm like, I'm just trying to talk things out with you, And so I didn't know about these things around gaslighting and narcissism too much, even though I had grown up around that, but I didn't know exactly these terminologies and what to look out for. So I was really then confronted with addressing a lot of deeply rooted relationship type stuff, and one of those karmic things that I have to work through in this life. And that in turn then affected how I felt, my emotional state, and sent me downhill in terms of my career and business. Because I was just, my world, my emotional internal world was just like overpowered or consumed by this relationship, because relationships really do tug on your heartstrings and they're so deeply emotional. And so it can be very easy to get caught up in that and lose sight of everything else. And that's what it ended up happening. Like what ended up happening for me was I didn't have the energy and the motivation and the drive and the passion and the space to just really focus on my business anymore. I wasn't feeling good. And for me personally, like if I'm not feeling good in myself or just on all these different levels of me, I don't feel right promoting anything to anyone when I'm in such a crap state, because I'm not going to show up in my highest possible form for those people and really feel good with myself. Like, I feel proud of like the energy and the things that I'm giving to them. Like if I'm not in a good place, I just don't feel right receiving money from anyone. And so I refused to do anything business related until I finally got myself together. And that took a while because I was in this relationship, which I didn't know what really was happening with me, because on the one hand, this person seemed to really love me and care about me and was there for me and this and that. But then on the other hand, like there was all this manipulation and I didn't know how to handle it. And I was just in this tornado of crap. And so that kept sending me downhill. My energy kept going down. My emotional state kept going down. I became disconnected from my spirituality because in part, and I'm not trying to blame this person because I personally take full responsibility for everything that I encountered in my life. And that's something that I teach people, even though it's really hard sometimes to really admit that. But the only way to really change your life is to stop pointing the finger outward and to really look within. And so for me, I recognize that I attracted this person into my life to teach me some very powerful lessons and to help bring to my awareness things that I really needed to deeply heal and where I needed to empower myself and a bunch of other things to move on from that. And so when I was, just like at this very, very low point, if I'm not promoting anything, if I'm not, doing things, then no money's coming in. And that put me in a very, very tight financial place to the point where I just couldn't believe I had basically gotten to such a place. And I was so disappointed with myself. I was just so upset with myself because I was like, how in the world did this happen? It's kind of like the equivalent of, winning the lottery and you're in the top of the world. And then all of a sudden your lottery money's gone and you're just like, what in the world? I'm back to square one. And that's, kind of what happened to me. And I was just so upset and so scared, and I was just so frustrated. And it was just a very, very difficult time. Like, I didn't know how I was going to get out of that again. I didn't know,
Mhm.
whether I was going to be able to like come back from that, even though part of me was like, Stephanie, you've gone through stuff, like you've been deported from the US, you came out of that. Yeah, you started,
I don't know why. We need you back here. We need you back
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like just so many difficult things in life. I'm like,
Mhm.
you can do this. Maybe you don't know how. Maybe you can't see the way yet, but you've overcome so many things in life, and you have to somehow overcome this. Like, this is not the end of it. And
Mhm.
but I was really just brought to my knees, because the future just seemed so uncertain for me in that moment. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? How am I going to pay these things? How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to clothe myself? How am I going to do
Mhm.
all of these basic things? Like, it was just so horrible.
And then your
And
ego takes over.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And just like all of my intense, survival stuff, my fears, my traumas, it just like came back, full force. And when I finally, tuned into myself, and I really asked myself, and I talked about this in that conscious roundtable video that I am going to put up here in the cards, but when I really, connected with myself, I really recognize, like, I don't want to be in this relationship. I really don't want this relationship, and I needed to do the hard thing for me, which was tell this person, like, I'm truly done with you. Last
Mhm.
time, there's no way to convince me to stay. This is
Mhm.
it. You need to find a way, to move forward, and I'm not going to solve any problems for you. I'm moving forward. And
Mhm.
it was hard. They reacted in the way that they did, and whatever, it was just like an issue, and I had to deal with them for a couple of weeks, and then just moved on, and I moved on with my life. And that was like the first step to really moving forward with my life, was like I needed to get myself out of that relationship, that environment that was clouding me in so many ways, so that I could
Mhm.
finally breathe and have clarity of mind, and to start like working on the plan to like move forward. And so
Mhm.
then I started doing that. And it's been a crazy journey, but yeah, that was like a very difficult time for me, where like all my karmic things like showed up, like relationships, career, money, and it just came back full force for me to really push through and work through this. So
Mhm.
that's what I've had to go through.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that, because you're definitely not alone, at all in any of that. We've all been gaslit. I feel like almost everybody in the world has been gaslit at one point or another. And was it a long-term relationship, or like how long had you known this person? Were they
That's a
like a
crazy
special part of your
story.
life?
That's
Yeah.
a crazy story. It was a short relationship, but it was so intense. I swear
Yeah.
we probably had like past lives together, and we had some karmic
Okay.
stuff to work through.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, it just unfolded that. It was an intense like 7 months or something. I was like, oh
Yeah.
Lord, who would have
Well,
thought?
like one of the things that that there's a couple things. So like one of the things I learned early on that I feel like isn't part of my journey, because I feel like this is something that's ingrained in me, is the idea of boundaries, and then learning boundaries, and the idea of putting a center boundary around yourself that's close to you, that is impenetrable to anybody, and anybody that really respects you or cares about you, I learned, will never try to breach that. And if they do, it's a bounce off. It's a this you can't go beyond this point. Like, you have crossed a boundary that is not okay. And a lot of people struggle with that, whether it's friends or family or relationships. They just let them in because you're supposed to, and you're supposed to help, and but I think, especially for light workers, it's really important to have that kind of boundary around your inner self, both for spirits and for people energies that you come in contact with. And I feel like I have that boundary really set in stone, where it's like, and that's hard. I mean, family is one of the hardest things with boundaries like that, because you want to give half of yourself to make them whole. um but boundaries is a big one, and that, I feel like once you have that and you kind of go, if you cared at all about me, you would not be trying to cross this boundary. And the fact that you're okay to, and I'm letting you know that this is a boundary for me, shows me where you should be at in my life, which is not in it. you know and I think that's a huge thing to learn. And then the second thing is like separating shame. I came across Brené Brown, which everybody knows Brené Brown, but the idea of like negative self-talk, and saying like, oh, you're so dumb. Why did you make that choice? Or how did you let yourself get here? And the idea is like, yeah, I didn't make the right choices at that time, but like, I'm not a bad person, like I made crappy choices, but those don't correlate to like, I'm a crappy person. And that was just a new lesson that I've learned that's really, really important, because again, it goes back to like that self-talk, and, in the moment it's really funny how once I learned that, it's like every time I start doing that now, I'm like, no, you're not a bad, even if I don't believe it, it's like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're not a bad person. That was just a poor choice, And also I say, a lot. It's a Wisconsin thing, I think. So
I say,
just to warn everybody, so I think those are two things that everybody is susceptible to, and it's really hard. And that's a big part of why I'm here, actually, is like, because being able to remain clear in this space as any kind of a light worker, an energy healer, or a coach, or a medium, you need a lot of room for that to be. I mean, you have to give it its respect and its space in your life. And the world as a whole is really trying to push, and I do feel a shift happening here, but it really has pushed. You need to have the kids. You need to keep up with all your bills. You need to make sure you have the funds available to do A, B, C, and D. And, all of those things take time and they take space. And that's been a challenge for me. Not so much on the relationship front, but having a kid and having to worry about his needs all the time, and make sure he's fed and clothed and dropped off, and teaching him the life lessons. I mean, it's hard to even get to that point because I'm on to work. And then, so what I've found is throughout my life, by not giving spirit a place as a full-time entity in my life, I've been constantly unable to give it any space at all, because right now my space is full, and life will continue to make it full of work and your things you have to get done, and your to-do lists, and you have to at some point put it on the to-do list as a main focus, because it has to be a living, breathing part of you. It can't just be this thing that you dip into twice a week. It has to be part of who you are. And that's where this comes in for me, is learning from someone like you, and just from a community of people really that you've created to help each other, learn how to do these things and get to the next step. So this can be a part of who we are in everyday life. And, we can thrive with that being the focus. So I appreciate you sharing. I think it's important to share the good and the bad, because we can't learn, I think we learn a lot faster from each other, hearing that it's not all roses and it's not all, sunshine and rainbows. It's sometimes some really hard things that you have to go through, that we all do, and you're not alone. And that doesn't make you weak or crap or, any of the things. You're still valid.
Amen, sister. Yeah, that's why I'm just so big on being transparent and open and vulnerable, because I know for me, it's helped me a lot to hear other people's stories. It's given me hope. It's given me the strength to keep going, courage. It's helped me to kind of be in my head and like recognize like, well, they went through all of this difficult stuff. If they could, persevere, I can persevere too, because sometimes it's very easy for us to get caught up in our heads and think that we're so weak and incapable and all of these different things, and to want to throw in the towel so much more quickly. And so sometimes just reminding ourselves of these people that came before us, or these people that are around that inspire us, like all the stuff that they had to get through or go through to be who they are today, to do what they're doing today. And so it helps you to just keep moving along. And that's why I like sharing my own journey, my experiences from time to time, especially when I work with people, because I know that it helps them as well to move forward. And there are some things I want to definitely address with what you shared. So thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and your experiences with, boundaries, and with having challenges sometimes managing this stuff with making your spirituality a part of your regular practice. With boundaries, that's been such a big lesson for me, and it continues to do so. Like it never ends. You think you're like, yeah, I learned how to set this boundary, that's it, I'll never have to deal with this again. But like, no, I've had to learn boundaries on so many different levels, with relationships, like family relationships, with romantic relationships, with business and clients and stuff, with myself. And I just keep revisiting them as it's appropriate, you know. And this year alone, like I'm still in Peru, and I came back here like 2 weeks after I returned from Colombia. We had the pandemic stuff and quarantine, and we've been under quarantine since, and it's been crazy here. And I know I'm here to learn through things and heal through things, and whenever I'm done, it'll be time to go. And I've been praying, I'm like, when is it time to go, universe? Trying to escape my problems here. Trying to like leave all this crap behind.
Where's the hatch? Where is it?
Yeah,
The
exactly. I'm like, come on now. But I've had to
Mhm.
learn to surrender to that and accept, like, it's just gonna happen when it's supposed to, and not push it. But you know, part of, I guess, why I needed to be here as well is I have my grandmother, and I'm currently with her, and she lost her caretaker person because her caretaker person got COVID, and she needed someone to go and help her, like, get groceries and all these different things. And so I stayed around, and I love my grandmother so much, but she's been like one of my most powerful teachers in my life. And I've had to like reset boundaries with her. And so it's interesting because when I first started my spiritual coaching work back in 2017, you know, I was with her then because I was living off my savings, and I wasn't making money at the time from the previous business I had. So I was like still with her. And when I finally had money and I learned my lessons and stuff, like, I was out of there. And so it's kind of interesting for me to like find myself years later back with her under different circumstances. But you know, back then I had to set boundaries with her. It was part of my lessons. And there was like all this upheaval around it and all this crap. And then I'm back here again, and I had to like set boundaries with her again, and all this upheaval as well. And I had to learn to become even stronger in myself and more loving of myself, and, you know, just so many different things. And so it's just been interesting how, you know, boundaries are something that you're going to revisit, sometimes even with the same people. It's just going to be different ways depending on like what you need in that moment. And I want to say also, like, when you communicate your boundaries to people and they overstep sometimes, then sometimes it's genuine like forgetfulness or whatever, because you're habituating them to a new way of interacting with one another. And so they might unconsciously want to go back to the old stuff, you know. And you have to remind them lovingly, like, no, remember we discussed this the other day, we don't do this anymore, right? Or I don't appreciate when you do this anymore. And you communicate that, you know, once or twice. You have to see, you know, what works for you. Like, you have to use your own discernment and listen to your own inner guidance there, because some people really just don't care, and they're going to be manipulative, and they're going to start trying to cross your boundaries. And then that might get you to question, like, well, am I really asking for too much? You know, am I being a bad person? And all this internal stuff to try, you'll gaslight yourself basically. Like, I know I'm notorious. So I had to, you know, learn to work through all of that and be like, no, I'm asking for what's right, for what's fair, for what's just. If they don't want to respect that, that's, you know, them with their own issues, and I'm going to just keep love for them, but from a distance, because I don't interact with this, and I'm not going to accept this anymore. And I'm, you know, if they're not getting it, then I guess I'm going to have to separate myself and, you know, just let them know, like, if you can't respect me, if you can't respect my boundaries, then we can't be around each other. And that's basically it. So you do sometimes, you know, if someone oversteps your boundary, don't be quick to just like be like off with your head, like, I already told you, why don't you listen? You know, you have to use your discernment there. Sometimes it takes a minute to get accustomed to that. But yeah, a lot of times people who really do love you and want to be a part of your life and want to be supportive of you, a lot of times those people are going to make more of an effort, and they're going to hear you and understand you and respect those boundaries. So, you know, that's what I wanted to share there. And then in regards to like your spiritual practices, oh my God, I felt like I was being called out a little bit, because I'm like, oh, that's something I have struggles with sometimes too, you know, even still today.
Yeah, everybody. You're not, I mean, no matter what, it doesn't matter. The biggest healer people in the world, I mean, it's just a human nature, and it's, you know, everybody was raised in that way. I mean, we all struggle with those two things that I talked about, every single person. It's really difficult, and it's also obtuse. it's very, it'll come at you in different ways and different angles. And, it's not like you can say, I see a square and now I'm going to be aware of that square. It's like, no, now it's going to come as a rhombus. And next time it's going to come as an octagon. And you have to keep kind of adjusting to how it's coming at you and from what angle.
Yeah.
And it happens on the fly. And sometimes you don't catch it right away. And that's kind of where you need to regroup and go, okay, whoa, why am I off? And, center, we all do that. I think it's, you have to
That's
always be aware.
And that kind of leads me a little bit to, I guess, the topic for today, which is levels of consciousness in business, is that the old way of doing things just in general in the world was just very like linear and structured. And it's like, okay, you're supposed to be a robot. And, from this time to this time, you do this, and this time to this time, you do that, and da da da. And you just are trying to adhere to a schedule and think like that's how you're supposed to be. So like in your mind, and you might think like, okay, I have to make time to connect with my spirit guides, or, connect with God or the universe, meditate, whatever, and if I'm not doing that, like I'm doing something wrong, and a lot of times we have a tendency to beat up on ourselves and be like, oh my God, I'm failing, I'm not connecting, I'm not practicing, or whatever it is. And, life isn't going to unfold perfectly. Like your kids are not going to wake up at the same time every day. Traffic's not going to be the same every single day. Things are constantly adjusting and moving. And so it's about really just, if this is a priority for you, then just doing your best to, in that craziness of the world or the movement that you're going through, like just doing your best to kind of find your balance and center again, and make time for that again. And it's okay. Like the point is that you're making an effort. You're making an effort to be as consistent as possible and to make that a priority, but then also be very mindful that it's not self-sabotage either, because sometimes we do that. Sometimes we allow ourselves to get swayed by everything to self-sabotage our own true desires. And if our desire is to connect with our spirituality more, we might self-sabotage too. So we have to be self-aware of that too. So I just say that because there's been times where, I will want that as a priority. I'm like, okay, I want to connect more with my guides and like practice journeying more, whatever. And then next thing I know, like I am choosing to be on the computer doing whatever work stuff or whatever other stuff till late at night. And then at a certain point, I'm like, oh, it's late. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't have time for that. I don't have energy. I'm sleepy now. And then I don't do it for days on end. I'm like, hold up a second. Like I'm choosing to be on this computer when I don't really need to be. So then I'm self-sabotaging myself.
Yeah, I mean, totally, without a doubt. I absolutely, I look at that all the time and I'm going, do I have time? I do. And I'm choosing to do other things with that time. But I think part of it is I know that this is my ego making excuses right now, but I'm going to say it anyway, because just to hear it out loud. But it's like when the world is demanding so much from you all the time and nothing feels like it's on you're in control of it, even though you are technically in control of everything. I bristle at that idea because, it's like, well, no, because I have to do these things to do this, to have this. And, I have to give my son a bath because, he needs to be clean, and I have to, take him out to play because he has to do this, and I have to go to work. And I think taking control of your own space and your own time is kind of going, I am just going to sit here and kind of let my mind go and just scroll through TikTok and, watch silly things, or, you know what I mean? Like, I've started, instead of, just mindlessly scrolling through funny or, whatever stuff, I try to look for things that are more connected to like my spirituality and try to make it more of like a learning session if I'm going to do that. And that's been helpful, but it's so difficult because you're right. It's like, I go to work, I get up, and I've got, from the minute I wake up, I feel like until the minute I go to bed, my day is planned, it's scheduled, there's A, B, C, and D that has to get done. It doesn't feel like there's any room for anything else. And I definitely, I don't see a way of shifting that. I don't see a way of fully being able to connect and let go of a lot of things, having a full-time career outside of the spiritual world. I think it has to become part of my everyday world. And I guess there's a lot of fear around bridging that gap between a corporate job that has all the benefits and the perks, and the, insurance benefits and, vacation and holidays. For me specifically too, kind of back up, I was a hairstylist for 7 years. And during that time, it was my 20s. It was fabulous. I didn't care about making a ton of money. I just wanted to live and have fun. And I did that. But there was also a lot of challenging times in there. I mean, I couldn't afford a car. That was difficult. I had to have my boyfriend take me. I had to take the bus, and that wastes tons of hours of your life, when you are sitting around waiting for a bus. And, it's hard. It's cold. You're carrying groceries and it's snowy. I mean, those types of experiences are a negative thing to me, and I don't ever want to go back to that. But yet, being in a very fickle world where you don't know when your next appointment is coming in, and you can't bank on, certain things, or you can't take a vacation off without knowing you're not going to be paid. Like, those had very negative effects in my life. And so the idea of going back into kind of a gig-based business is really, really difficult for me. However, I know that the amount of space that it takes to be in a corporate type job, it takes up all of my free time other than having my son. And I just don't know how to bridge that gap and let go of that ego-based fear, that I'm going to be able to make that shift and not go back to where I was, where I don't have a car and I'm sitting there wondering how my bills are going to get paid. Everybody, and I bristle because I hear, have faith, just do it, just jump. And I'm like, I did that once and nothing caught me, and I fell and I didn't learn from it. All I learned was that I needed to get secure. And the way I did that to save myself was to go get a corporate job and do what everybody says you're supposed to do. And at that point, I was able to take more vacations. I was able to go to the doctor and get my health things looked at. I was able to get these things that I need to feel good about life. So I think that's a big challenge for people who are gifted in this way. It's truly a gift, and want it to be more part of their life, but yet have to stifle it in order to get what you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And it's definitely a difficult spot to be in, because when you have, like, quote unquote, like, so much to lose, it seems like that. And it's, yeah, I totally get that. My scarcity alarm would
Yeah.
totally have
Yes.
been triggered like crazy in
Oh,
that situation
yes.
as well. Um,
Yes.
yeah, what I would say to that is just, it's definitely important to work through the limiting beliefs and fears that are present there around thinking that the past will repeat itself,
Mhm.
and that's definitely something I've had to revisit in many different ways in my own journey. Fears of certain situations happening, certain failures repeating themselves, or whatever it is. And so definitely making sure that you work through those fears and insecurities, because that doesn't have to be the case, but that might be the case if you keep fearing that and keeping that in your energy and calling that forward. So
Mhm.
definitely important to do the inner work around that. And then also, what I notice a lot with people with corporate jobs, especially, is like they have poor boundaries with their work, or just like
Mhm.
people in general, even if you're like, you're self-employed. Sometimes people just really have poor boundaries, and they think like, oh, I have to answer this email now. I have to like get this thing to this client now, and this and that. It's like after hours. It's like, no, you don't. It's like, pretend you're going to an office and your technology or whatever is only at the office. And if you're not at the office, then wait till tomorrow morning, just like any
Mhm.
other normal person. But I think, with the way our society and culture, I guess, has unfolded in regards to business, we expect people, especially in this part of the world, because I feel like there's so much hustle energy in this part of the world. Whereas like in Europe, it's a little bit different, Western Europe at least. I can't
Mhm.
speak for Eastern Europe, but I remember being so offended with people in the Netherlands working full-time jobs that were 36 hours. No offense to anyone from the Netherlands, but back in
Mhm.
the day, I was offended that they were working 36 hours a week as a full-time job, when in the US it's 40. In
Mhm.
Peru, for example, it's like 48 hours. You have to
Mhm.
work on Saturdays too for some places.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, they were complaining about working too much. And it's like,
Mhm.
what? You work 36 hours. What are you talking about?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, the mentalities in different parts of the world are different, and you're expected, in a sense, in certain places of the world to like do more and always be on top. And it's like super competitive. And so you don't want to like fall behind. And that's why you like push yourself to do extra things beyond your regular working hours sometimes, or you just give so much. So just make sure, that that's not the case with your corporate job, that you're not over giving in that sense, that you have good
Mhm.
boundaries there. so that you actually free yourself up to then do other things and work on potential like things like your spirituality, or work on building yourself up to start a business in this if you want, and then you can start freeing yourself up there. And then with also the journey of transitioning from corporate to your own spiritual business, if that's for you, man, that's going to be a journey that's different for everyone. It's going to take you really believing in yourself. That's like
Mm.
huge. So first you have to like clear all the scarcity, the fears, limiting beliefs, but you really have to believe in yourself, and you really have to have a deep connection to spirit. Like I think everything here on planet Earth is a spiritual journey in some way. And when you become an entrepreneur, that's definitely a spiritual journey. And you have to literally go into it, I feel, just truly doing your best to surrender and be open to how it unfolds, instead of holding on to your fear of what you think will happen, or the worst case scenario, or how you think it needs to happen. Like you have to work through all of that and step into it and just be like, all right, listen, I'm taking this leap. And you have to take that leap, I feel, when you feel it's time for you, because everyone's journey is going to be different. And some people, for example, choose to save up before they make that leap. And they're like, okay, I have savings that will cover me for, the next 6 months or whatever. And that'll give me some time to like just really dedicate myself fully to this. And I'm going to do my best to show up and to do what I got to do to make this work, and just do my part and leave the rest up to the universe. And so some people do it that way. Some people do it by having some savings potentially, and then like having just like a part-time job, so that it doesn't put as much pressure on them financially, but then it also gives them enough free time to like actually have time to work on the business part and to like build their business up. And some people just like, leave everything behind and they just jump into it, straightforward, and go into it like that. What is it? Dive into it. And so, it's going to be different for everyone. There is no right or wrong. You have to see what you feel intuitively led to do what's best for you. And when you feel it's time to take that leap, because, I think we all know. I think we all really know when something has reached its like point with us, or it's like end point with us, and we're just like ready to move on from it. But sometimes we hold on to it. And so with anything, with a relationship, like you can know like this relationship is really not going anywhere, but you're too afraid to leave because you're afraid of being alone or whatever it is. And so you hold on to this relationship, and then eventually something happens along the way where that relationship ends anyway, or something happens. So it's the same thing with your corporate jobs. For anyone listening, it's like you stay in it until you feel it's right, and try to make that leap, and however you feel called to do that, when you feel like it's time, like around that time when you feel like it's time to go, and just do it rather than hang on there and wait for it. Because that's the thing, is like I've been learning to break through my own illusions of a lot of different things. And when it comes to like having a corporate job or any kind of stable job, that's the illusion that we have, is like we think that it's stable. We think like it's a for sure thing, but it really never is, because at any point it could change, and I don't want that to necessarily happen for anyone. But it's not really a sure thing. The real sure thing is you, and you giving what you came here to give to the world, because you're never going to run out of that. And you can do that for yourself. You don't necessarily need some business, corporation, or whatever outside of you to give you that certainty, that sense of security. You can do that to yourself. But that's a bit of a journey, learning to feel safe within yourself, learning to feel like you can provide for yourself without anything outside of you. That's like a journey of lots of inner work and healing and stuff, and learning to trust in the universe to provide and stuff to help you move forward. So
that's one of my biggest soul lessons here on this earth. I know it is. And I feel like, being tested in the way of like wondering when you're going to eat next and things like this, really scary things that happen to you when you don't have that security. And I think, it's hard enough because that you need these things, but when you actually have lived through the pain of that, it's like you never want to go back ever. You're never going to do anything. You're never going to take a chance to go back to that. And so you are in control, not the spirit is in control, not the powers that be are in control, not that this is a temporary situation called life that ends up going back to the source and you're not here anymore. You know, it feels very real, and it is real when you're sitting there going, I have $5 for the next week, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, save up, great, how can I even get to, you know what I mean? And then it's a multi-pronged approach, because for me, it's been, I either have the spirit shut down or it's open. And the more that you silence it, you know, when you are around somebody in a public or a work setting or, you know, whatever, and you have a message to give and then you stifle that, it's really hard to be like, now I'm open and now I'm not. You know, I'm open, I can be open for spirit for 2 hours a day at the very end when my son is in bed at 8:30 after I've done all my corporate job. I mean, and I do have good boundaries with my job. My job is extremely lenient. I mean, they don't care when I work as long as I get it done. And the workload is manageable, but you know, within that, you're not allowed to like cross over that boundary and tell somebody when the spirit is there for them, you know, when a loved one is coming through. That's not an acceptable thing. It doesn't feel acceptable, and not everybody reacts the same way. And I think being able to be in business and manage that and say, okay, I'm going to wait, I'm going to work towards this, being ready to jump, if you will, off the diving board, and save money up. It's like, it's a catch-22, because essentially if you're not actively using your gifts on an everyday basis and making those two separate parts of yourself whole, you're never going to be able to do that in a full-time setting. I'm never going to be able to fully interact with spirit and be sure of it and be sure that it's not me or my brain, that it's actually spirit coming through, until I give it the full space that it needs. I know I can't build a successful career based on 1 or 2 hours a day that I'm giving to spirit when I'm stifling them for the other, you know, 12. So that's been a really tough thing for me too, is like, how do I incorporate this more into my life while also maintaining a full-time job? And then there's the feeling of like emptiness that comes from doing something every day that is not your purpose.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you're also trying to like really connect to your soul and really like build this up to the point that you're stable, you know, enough to like leave. But at the same token, you're empty every day. You know, you're empty because you're going to work and you're doing things that are not in your purpose. You know that that's the case. And yet you have to keep doing it because, you know, you need the benefits, or, you know what I mean? You need the money for rent, and you need the money for your car. You know, it always feels like there's then something else that comes up financially that has to be done. Oh, now my brakes are squeaking. Now my, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's just that circle of like jumping into this, which is why I'm so glad to be here with you. And also my own personal journey of having felt the fear of going towards something that I thought, you know, was my passion, and then having it not only fail miserably, but leave me in really desperate situations, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a really tough thing, I think, for a lot of people to bridge, especially when, like me, I'm a single mom, you know, I share custody of my son, but at the end of the day, I have to maintain an entire household for him. And there isn't another person to make the meals or to do the laundry or to make sure that, you know, everything is that he needs is met. And so there's a lot of pressure there. And I think where I've come to now is like, I'm at this point in my job now where it's like, there's got to be more to life than this, because this can't be it. Nothing here. I mean, I'm not finding joy in so many things now anymore because I'm so disconnected from my purpose.
Yeah, and that's something that we spoke about in those conscious roundtable conversations in the second video, especially around like people who are really not in alignment with what they're doing for work are gonna feel that disconnect, are gonna feel like, oh, just going through the motions, like I don't really enjoy being here anymore, and this and that. And that calling is just going to become stronger and stronger and stronger for people, to the point where it's like it's like you're not really aligned with your soul, with who you really are, and that separation makes you feel so bad inside, and you want to feel good again. It's kind of like, you know, when you're sick in your body or something, and you're sick for a really long time, and you're just like, oh my God, I just can't wait till I get better again, you know. And then when you're finally better, you're like, oh my God, yes, I can finally move around and do this and breathe normally or whatever, and you're like so excited. So you want to go for that feeling again. But the way to do that is through really doing what you're here to do and fulfilling the purpose that only you uniquely can do. And yeah, it's like you said, it is tough sometimes bridging that gap. So what I can say to that is, man, there was just so much said in what you had to share.
I know, I'm sorry. I just like,
No, it's
bleh.
okay. I'm like, I should have taken notes.
No,
But
it's a lot. There isn't, I think there's not one answer for you to give. It's everybody's individual journey, and their own situation is so different than the next. I mean, some people have people they can rely on that could loan them money, or, you know, but or maybe they have a situation where they've saved enough money, or, you know, whatever the situation is. I personally am not in that situation because I spent so long chasing a passion that didn't provide for me. It put me behind the 8 ball, and put me in a situation, both 100% transparency with my credit and with my ability to save what I have. Life situations have constantly put me at the edge financially, that leaves me clinging to this necessary income to survive. And then also I'm being pulled by my spirit, knowing my gifts, to make this my purpose, to make this a full-time thing. And then I see people that are doing that and they make enough money. I mean, they don't have to worry about, you know, it's a funny thing, because at the moment that I'm at the edge of the diving board, you know, and my fears are going, walk back down the ladder, walk back down the ladder. And my spirit is going, jump, jump, we got you, you know, and I'm like,
so you're
do
feeling that
you got
call.
me? You know, oh my gosh, yes. I mean, the funny thing is I can hear people that have passed, and I can pass along those messages, and I've felt the weight that gives people. I mean, it's truly a gift. I mean, it just is, you know, it's just a gift. And you know, the only space that I've allowed for spirit to come through is when I've had a couple drinks and I'm relaxed and I'm with people, you know.
Yeah.
Or when I've allowed it to be more of my, when I've accepted it, and when I have been more open to it on a regular basis, is when I'll continue to get those messages. When I put a hard no and I shut it down because I don't have time for that, it doesn't, it goes away. You know, there's like I saw a funny billboard once that said, if you ignore your teeth, they'll go away. You know,
Okay.
it's true. You know, it's like, if you ignore it, it will go away. I mean, eventually it will stop being there if you don't provide the space for it. And it's true. I mean, it's like a candle that doesn't get oxygen. It never snuffs out. It'll always be able to be relit, I think, when you have that gift, but it gets further away from who you are. And it's spirit listens. And so if you say go away, it goes away. But you know, that leaves me with a hole, because I know I'm not living up to my potential, and I know my purpose is to help people with their grief and connect with loved ones from the other side. You don't have these gifts for no reason. You don't have them to just go work a corporate job and be, you know, financially secure forever until you
Yeah.
retire.
It's
You
interesting
know.
that you mentioned the grief thing, because I was like, oh, I want to do a conscious roundtable on like grief, because I have friends that are going through that. And I was like, I think it would be really good to talk about, but it didn't feel exactly right. So I'm like, oh, marinating on it. Maybe this is a message, but all right. I remembered the stuff I wanted to say. Hopefully I remember it all and I don't forget any of it. So first of
Well, if you
all,
did.
I feel like spirit a lot of times for most of us is kind and gentle, like in the sense that it gives us a little bit of time to build up to things that we're intended to do in life. And it will, you know, send us those nudges, those messages, those signals, and give us the space to kind of work up to it. And so it's kind of like what I'm getting right now is like cancer. It's like cancer just doesn't manifest from one day to the next. Like cancer is like over a period of time, you know, things have built up or whatever to gradually give way to this thing. And then, you know, it's a tumor, it's an issue, like it has to be removed. And then it's a problem. And that's when like when the tumor shows up, it's like when you need the surgery or the treatments or whatever, and like all hell breaks loose basically, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like spirit, you know, is like, okay, here you go, build up to your gifts, build up to your purpose, build up to what you're here to do, and it will give you free will to decide whether you're going to be brave enough to move down that path or not, if you're going to run away from it. And or if you're just going to kind of like dip in and out, whatever, it's just however it unfolds for you. We're all on our own unique journeys, and we all have our unique karma and traumas and things that also impact how we engage with that process. And so eventually though, it does get to the point where if you haven't moved forward by choice and willingly, gone in the direction you were being called to go in, then all hell breaks loose. And it's like, all right, universe, like, boom, like, here you go, because this is what we need to do to light a fire under your butt and get you going to where you are actually intended to be. And that's not ever fun, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's the way that we learn. I try my best not to learn that way anymore, but sometimes I still need it, apparently. So I'm like, okay. So, that's the thing, is that if you're receiving messages, from spirit, and you feel called to share those messages, because not everything that we receive we're meant to share, but if you really feel like it's appropriate for you to share, then part of taking that step forward and in showing your readiness, that you're ready to step into this, you're ready to move forward, is by relaying that message, is being like, oh my God, like, these people are going to probably think I'm crazy and this and that. Like, it's all your internal stuff that's keeping you from taking that action forward. And so when you do that, when you hold yourself back, then you're signaling to the universe, like, I'm not really ready yet. And so the universe is like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We'll let you keep taking your time and just keep going along your journey. And then it'll give you another opportunity to relay messages. And then if you keep holding yourself back, like, the universe is going to be like, okay, that's fine. It's going to let you go along your way until it's this point where it's like, okay, now you have to go. Now you have to just like be thrown into the wolves or the shark infested water and like figure it out. And you have to do it. So when you get those opportunities to share messages that you feel called to really relay to others, start by taking those small action steps and being brave and being true to yourself, because that's another boundary there that you can set for yourself, is when you hold yourself back from sharing this part of you with other people, you're not being authentic. And if you really feel in yourself like you deserve to be loved and accepted as you really truly are, then you have to take that step forward in being like, okay, you know what, I deserve to be loved and accepted as I really am. And for other people to love and accept me as I really am, I have to love and accept myself. And this means taking that step forward, even though it's scaring the crap out of me, to relay this message that I've received, that I feel called to give someone to help them. And to do that, because then I'm not letting my ego get the best of me anymore and hold me back, making me think like, oh, people are going to think I'm weird and this and that. Like, no, I'm going to, move past the ego and just be like, no, I love and accept me. It's okay to be who I am, to have these gifts and to be called to share them. And I'm going to start sharing them. And so setting that boundary with yourself and start taking those steps. And as you take those steps, then that's also you putting into practice your gifts. That's you signaling to the universe, like, I'm ready for more. I'm ready to start moving forward with this more powerfully. And then things are going to start going into motion much more powerfully. But right now it's kind of like you're on this train and it's a slow moving train and it's like slowly building up speed, but once you decide to step into this more powerfully, then it's like someone's throwing coals in the thing and the train is like picking up speed and it's going faster, but it's up to you. So you have to be willing to take those small steps forward in order to start making, this a reality for you. Start making, your business come into fruition. So
yeah, I love that you said all of that. I think that hits the nail 100% on the head, because that's exactly what happens. When this all came about, I mean, I grew up being terrified of the dark, seeing spirits, nobody around you knows what that is. To like, I describe it as when the student is ready, the teacher presents themselves. And that's what happened to me in my mid to late 20s, was actually late 20s now that I think about it, but that's what happened. It was like, boom, everywhere I turned, there was another spiritual advisor, another person very involved in the spirit world right there, talking to me and interacting and, inviting me to things and teaching me. And I had a lot of fear from religion that I grew up around the spirit and the fact that, oh, if you hear, voices and anything not of God is of the devil, it's a bad trick, and also just the confusion around not knowing, not having anybody. It's such a lonely journey sometimes. We are all unicorns in some way because of, not because what we do is not a human right, to be able to connect to the higher power, but because there's nobody there to help guide that and tell you what it's all about and tell you what it means. It's, at least in my world, for the most part, not talked about. I came to find out later on that my dad actually has this gift. My mom has these gifts. It runs in the family. It's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And my dad can hear spirits. My mom can see spirits. And that it is a lot more accepted. I told my grandma and she said, when are you going to get your plaque for the front yard? Meaning like, psychic readings and,
Yeah.
you put a sign on my front lawn. That was her response. I mean, so, in the end, I learned how I would receive the messages. What, I describe it to people as, for most of my life, growing up as a child, I knew I had this, but I put a glass cake top, those things that you put over cake to keep it fresh. I had one of those around me. So it's like I could hear the spirits tapping, but I was like, I didn't want to hear it. I was afraid. And I was afraid for the, oh, well, what if I let them in and then dark energy comes in? I had to learn through all of that. And I did. And now I know how it works. And I know that I don't need to be afraid of that. And I'm past that point where I know how to receive the message. I've given messages to people that have been validated as being, things that I couldn't know. I mean, my gifts are real. I know that they're real. And the more that I've given messages, the more you get. It's just that thing. It's like, you're right. It's like a slow moving train, and the universe does give you what you are asking for, and it's also respectful if you say I'm not ready. That's where I live right now, is this space where I have to let the universe know I'm ready, but that entails me making space for it. And right now I'm in the process of trying to figure out how much space can I give it where I let it know that I'm ready, and make room for it in my life, and what does that look like, and kind of also wanting to be a part of a group like this and be interacting with you and your community, because I want to hear from other people that, what, spirit will provide. You don't need to be afraid. Here's 15 million examples of how we've all been afraid of that and like jumped off the diving board and have been more than caught. I mean, we went from making a great corporate wage to like, we're, balling at this point because we're living our true purpose, and we're more than provided what we need, and we're also living our truths. And it's just this wonderful place. And that's what I'm hoping to receive. And I want to have more faith through meeting people and hearing that is true. And that it's not just a myth. I'm not going to dive off the diving board and, be this failure, if you will,
Oh yeah. So first of all, I have lots of things to say. Well, I love that I, attracted you to come and chat with me, because I've been so obsessed with NDEs this year. And anytime I feel gravitated towards something, it's just for like, I don't know, for some reason, maybe I'll understand later on down the road. But I just love hearing about people's like near-death experiences and life after death and all this stuff. And I don't know, maybe that's also me stepping more into my mediumship as well, because I was really afraid of that for a really long time. I was like, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to interact with those energies and all this other stuff. And so my uncle, who passed last year as well, like I was told he was going to help me open up to my gifts, those gifts as well. So really interesting. I'm like, this is maybe a sign for me. But anyway.
Yes. I mean, honestly, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it really is. And for me, the way they come through is like a memory that's not mine.
Yeah.
So I can see what they look like. They've even given me their name, and I can relay this to perfect strangers, people that I've met for the first time. And I'm telling them that they have an Aunt Gert, a nickname that I have no way of knowing. I mean, those types of things are surreal, and that is a gift. That is, I truly believe that I came back in this lifetime to be able to help people move their consciousness from I'm alone and this is it to like, this is a drop in the bucket in eternity, and we're a soul that moves beyond that. And I feel very passionately about that. But it's the financial, it's like that keeps me from, and it's a catch-22, like I said, but you should absolutely not be afraid
Yeah.
ever.
Also, what you said earlier about how, through kind of looking into this more, you realize that you got this from your parents and it's in your bloodline. And that's what I want anyone who's listening to this call to realize, is that a lot of us who are gifted in this way, we inherited it from someone along the way. And so, it's interesting because it'll all make sense later on down the road. Like my family, for some reason, gave me the nickname bruja in Spanish, which means witch. And they did it because I used to run around like a crazy person and had long, crazy hair and whatever. So I looked crazy, like as they portray witches in movies and stuff. So they used to call me witch. But I'm just like, that's interesting, how they called me witch. And like, I guess I am a modern day witch, even though I don't do like all the herb type stuff, but whatever,
It.
And also, I've just like looking into it. I had an uncle who's like into like card readings and things like that. Like he kind of taught, he tried to teach me from a young age, like how to read like the deck of the regular like playing poker cards and to like get yes or no responses and stuff. I remember growing up, he used to get an egg to kind of purify our body and like clean it of bad energies and things like that. So he kind of introduced me to mysticism. And then as I got older, my mom shared more about like prophetic dreams she would have, or especially in recent years, her abilities have opened up so much more, and she like sees, departed loved ones. And my mom has a cleaning business, so sometimes when she goes in homes, she'll see like the spirits like running around or whatever, walking around. And she'll feel if someone had like an argument or someone died in a room or whatever, and all these different things. And I keep telling my mom, like, you're psychic. I'm like, why don't you recognize? Like, this is where I get it from. And then on my dad's side of the family as well, they also, from what I understand, were into those kinds of things. So if you have abilities, like chances are you got this from someone down the line, and maybe they don't talk about it or whatever, but it's part of you. So if you feel called to embrace that, do your best to start stepping into that, find the guides, the mentors, the people who can help you to develop those gifts. And you said other things I wanted to speak to. I should really have a notepad to talk to you.
Well, next time. Hopefully this is not the last time we talk.
No, but what time is it? Yeah.
10:43.
When did we start?
10:43 is my time. But I religion is a big part of why people don't bridge over. In connection with my spirit guides, religion is, I'm not anti-religious, but I'm anti the idea that so much religious teaching has kept the power with a few, because if you want to connect to the higher power, you need to go through them. And I think that's one of the biggest problems I have with religion. And what people are taught is that, if you're connecting to something, you better be careful, it's bad energy, what are you going to do if the bad ones get in, and people don't need to be afraid of that, because the bad ones are not anywhere near light workers. They are not. There's too much love surrounding a light worker when they come back for any negative energies to get anywhere near them. That's not where darker energies are targeting. They're targeting.
I have a different experience and perspective on that, based on what I'm here to teach and who I'm here to be and stuff. And I think what I've noticed a lot is a lot of light workers are learning how to channel right, and they're connecting with energies. And honestly, sometimes these energies are not of the highest good. And they do connect with light workers because light workers are naive, and they are it's easily possible to infiltrate through them sometimes. And so you think that you're connecting to a higher entity being, when in reality, you're connecting to someone posing as such, because they're speaking to you in this beautiful, lovely way. And I had that firsthand experience last year, because all of a sudden I channel with my guides, and I like channel writing, especially because then I can go back and reread something and be like, oh yeah, that's what they said or whatever. And so I was channel writing, and then I had like this collective come forward, and like they don't normally come forward. I was like, what? And then they were saying really nice things to me. And then another group came forward another day and saying really nice things to me. And then I posted it on my Facebook, and I was like, yo, is anyone else talking to a lot of aliens or something lately? And then like it just went crazy. And all my friends were like, oh yeah, this and that. And then my ex mentor reached out to me and was like, just make sure you're double checking these people's integrity. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I didn't do that. Dang it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did. And I asked my guys, I was like, yo, like, what's up? Like, who were these people? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And my guys were like, well, that was to teach you a lesson to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're always double checking who you're really connecting with and to not slack
Mm-hmm.
on that. And to be more mindful of that, you know, this and that. I was like, but they were saying nice things. And they were like, yeah, because, you know, they know how to talk to you and what you
Yeah.
want to hear. And this and that. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
snap. And then I became, it was like, it threw me in for a loop because it was just like a whole lesson for me. And lessons usually just trip you up in ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like very suspicious because I was like, who do I talk to? And like, am I really connecting with, you know, the right people or whatever? And then
Mm-hmm.
that was really a process for me to learn to really trust in my own discernment and in what
Mm-hmm.
I feel is right. And not just like someone putting a, like, this even happens in the human world. Like people come to you and they seem nice, but then you turn around and then they're like trying to stab you behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens in the spirit realm too. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn, discernment has been like a big thing for me since that toxic relationship. So that's probably one of the reasons why it also popped up in this way as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to like really learn how to strengthen my discernment through that experience. And then also I have had demonic energies come and connect with me to teach me certain lessons, you know. And so one thing I want to say to anyone watching this who now might be like, oh my God, you know, is it okay? Is it safe? Is like, first of all, you
Mm-hmm.
need to understand that you always have the power to, in a way, like cast away these energies or whatever, send them away.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
to decide, you know, you have to be strong in yourself and not let your ego trip you up and make you scared, especially if you have like, you know, religious programming.
Mm-hmm.
Because and not even just necessarily religious programming, it's things that you've been exposed to like media and
Mm-hmm.
movies. A lot of times in movies they make demonic possessions or all these other things seem like really bad and really scary, and that programs you
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously to be really really afraid of these things or make them out worse than what they really are. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to really understand that when these energies, if they do come connect with you, you have the power to send them away. You have to really stand strong in who you are and be like, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not letting you in my space and you need to go. Only beings
Mm-hmm.
of the highest of
Yeah.
integrity and the highest of good are allowed here. And if it helps you to
Yes.
connect with certain beings like Archangel Michael or Shiva,
Ah,
whoever you believe
yes.
in, to provide that extra
Yes.
protection, call them in. Call them in
Yes.
and send them away, but you don't have to be afraid. And that's part of
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a lesson in light workers learning to stand in their power and not
Yes.
being afraid of the darkness, because we don't have to be afraid. And so when I had to
Yes.
encounter this demonic energy, which was crazy, and I did a whole thing on my Instagram as well about it because it broke my computer. It literally like
Mm-hmm.
I was in Colombia and yeah, and then I think I felt like pressure on my chest or something. I was like working on something, I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember what. And then I felt like this pressure on my chest, and then next thing I know my computer screen like just like gets messed up. And then I was like, "What?" And
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, usually when spirit wants to like get my attention, it will make it like I will have to be put in pain in some kind of way, either through my physical body or my things to like really get me to notice and do something.
Yeah.
And so that's how we do as humans. Sometimes we just have to learn the hard way. And so
Yes.
my computer just like the screen got messed up and I was like, what? Like all of a sudden the
Wow.
screen, how do I don't even know how to explain
I
it.
I totally get. I'm picturing exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's like just imagine the image just like moving up and down fast, 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 like very, very fast to the point where it's like you can't even
Mm,
see any pictures, anything. It's just like
mm,
lights or whatever.
mm,
And then I was like, what in the world? And I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to tune in and I'm going to ask what in the world this is. And I got
mm-hmm,
told, like, check your energy. And I'm like, okay, I'm checking, checking,
mm-hmm,
checking. And then I like notice something and I'm like, what is that?
mm-hmm,
And then I notice and I feel, you know, and
mm-hmm,
I'm like, oh, what is this? And then I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to do the healing now and my computer will hopefully be fixed. So I'm just like
mm-hmm,
doing the healing or whatever. And I'm like facing this energy that I was afraid of, right? Because I had to like overcome that
mm,
to continue to step into my psychic abilities more, continue to own
yeah.
who I am and all these different things. And I had to, you know, face that deal with it. And when I opened my eyes and I was like, okay, cool, it's gone. But they were like, you got to be careful the next few days and like continue to step in your power. Otherwise it's going to come back. If you give it an opening, it will come back. So I had to like really build myself up over those next few days. And I was like, okay, fine. And when I opened my eyes, my computer screen, the image wasn't like moving up and down very fast anymore. It was static, but it was like messed up. And if you want to check this out, you can go to my Instagram, go to Stef Coaching on Instagram. And there I have like a little, I don't know what it's called, the little things that highlights. And it's like my life as a psychic or something like that. And I have like an image of it there.
Oh gosh.
Go through it, like all the crazy things that happened to me as a psychic. And I'm like, oh, let me document for people. So
I love that you do that.
Yeah, I have a thing called Psychic Life. And
cool.
If you go through that, you'll see like the thing, I'm sure it's saved there. And so it was like messed up. It was like a screen, like the normal screen, but then like a copy of it slightly to the side on top of it. And it was like a different color. And then I was like mad because I was like, what the hell, guys? Like, I did the healing. Why haven't you fixed my computer? And they're like, well, because you have to still practice this for the next few days. I'm like, oh, damn. Yeah. And
well, you're a target because you're teaching other light workers.
Yeah. Exactly.
So they don't want you. Okay, negative energies exist, and I don't think all religion is bad. And I totally agree with calling upon your higher powers. For me, it's Archangel Gabriel, and you know, Archangel Michael, and I will call on them if I feel that there is negative energy. It does exist. I didn't mean to say it doesn't exist or nobody has it around them. That's not true. You do need to be aware of all energies that you come in contact with. I just meant it as like there's a hang up for people to move to the next level or even be open to it. I know for me that was a big one because what are you going to do if a demon takes over your house? Call the cops? There's no one to help you. I mean, spiritual ghostbusters, who are they? Who's going to help? You know what I mean? That's yourself. And I got a message from the spirit world that I did not have to be afraid, and that I could call, that I am always being watched and protected and supported, and that I do have that. And if I need to call upon it, I can, and it will be there. And that was the singular thing that allowed me to move into this space fully in my late 20s and learn about it and start to receive and give messages, because I needed to move past that. And so you do absolutely, Stef, need to be aware and learn. And I'm so glad that you do, because the bad ones out there don't want you doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
For sure.
Y'all have no idea the crazy things I've had to go through, especially since COVID. Like, it was crazy. And I've had to do a lot of things to really protect myself in this last year and a half, especially as I've gotten deeper into psychic work. Because I'm like, y'all are not going to stop me. I will fulfill my purpose. I'm here to change millions of lives.
You hear me? You hear me? I'm talking to you.
Still
totally.
Here. So,
oh my gosh, totally.
You never have to be afraid. Call on whatever you feel called to come forward and support you in protecting yourself, whether that's God, Allah, whatever energies, beings, gods, goddesses that you believe in, saints, you know, just whatever you feel resonates with you. I want you to be able to walk away from this knowing like you have nothing to be afraid of, and to let go of that. Like, I wasn't programmed with a lot of like religious upbringing, even though my grandma did try to like speak to me about God and sins and stuff like that growing up, but it did on some level affect me embracing my psychic abilities on so many levels. And I had to, that's why like that whole demon situation showed up for me, because I had to like overcome that fear, that subconscious programming that was like deeply in there, and I had to like go through that to move forward. And so, you know, it's part of learning how to take back your power and recognize what a truly powerful being you are. And so that's what I wanted to say to that, is like, you don't have to be afraid. Start taking those steps forward to embrace your gifts, and always know that no matter what, you can be protected. And it's a process for you. You know, everyone's process is going to be different. So it's not like when you decide to start opening up to your gifts, it's not like all of a sudden like these dark energies are going to come forward to you. Like, they're not going to come unless that's appropriate for your path and journey at that time. And but like I said earlier, it's like spirit lets you build up to things. Usually it doesn't give you more than you can handle. So if for whatever reason something big does come along the way, like, know that you can handle that. Know that you can handle that, and your light, your love is so much more powerful than the darkness. It's literally
Yes.
like, just imagine like a dark space,
Yes.
and your light and your love is just radiating from you so powerfully. And these lower energy beings, they
Mm-hmm.
cannot touch you, because it just is, the energy that you're emitting is so vastly different from theirs that
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like when you touch a flame and then you're like, ah, that burns, like they can't go near it. They can't go
Mm-hmm.
near it. It
Mm-hmm.
not, I wouldn't say hurts them, but it's just definitely not in alignment with them. They just can't go near
Mm-hmm.
it. So you have to trust to the best of your ability in your love and your light, in the fact that you're being divinely guided and protected and supported,
Mm-hmm.
and know that that is enough to keep you from having these other energies come close to you and claiming on you. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say to that, that it's a lesson that unfolds differently for everyone. We're all unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, 100 million%. Yeah, it's the woo woo, it's the Hollywood, there's so many different ways that gets in your mind and then stays there. And it's fear based. And that's what those energies live on, is fear.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right, Steph, standing in your power and saying, you may be here, but I'm here too. And, it's that idea of like, learning how, I think when you have any kind of a spiritual power, you're a powerful being in every sense. And I think a lot of times the world and darker energies kind of say, okay, well, you need to fit the space. So you need to shrink. You need to go smaller so that you fit into this area, this room, this situation, whatever it is, and I think part of being and stepping into your power as a light worker is saying, I'm here, I'm big and I'm bright, and
Yeah.
people need to make room.
Yeah.
And I'm here now. And whatever you were may be here, but I'm here now. And there's like a new sheriff in town, and y'all need to go. And so I watched some of these like psychic kid shows and, shows about psychic, kids. And it drives me crazy because they always talk about darker energies and, oh, there's this darker energy. And they feed on that fear and that ratings that it brings up.
Yeah.
And it just drives me insane because it's just not every spiritual encounter is that,
Yeah.
it's showing people that they have things to be afraid of, and they do the green screen. And I know it's somewhat Hollywood, but and that's like the message out there to psychic mediums or people that are new to this gift. It just it's such a big thing that keeps people from moving forward in their gift, and something that when you learn how powerful you are, you realize you have nothing to be afraid of, and that there are beings on the other side, your guides, and powerful beings on the other side that are there to help you be that huge light in spaces that are not so light, around beings that are not so great.
Yeah, I think
Energies.
people really need to use their discernment with what they watch and how they
Mhm.
interpret it. And so, from a, I guess, like business and evolutionary, I guess, standpoint, a lot of the things that we have on TV and media are programmed to trigger your fear response, because that's how
Yep.
we've been created from millions of years or whatever, is to like be alert, be aware of danger. And
Yeah.
our brains are kind of programmed to look for anything bad that can happen. And that will a lot of times, more often, or at least in the past, in near future, no, near in this present time, that would have gotten people's attention more than all the happy-go-lucky type of things, because it's like, oh, problems, like, even I know me growing up, high schools I went to, if there was a fight, people would come around and like form a circle around whoever's fighting to see like what's
I
up.
hate that.
We just are drawn to the drama, we're drawn to the fear, we're drawn to the negativity. And so these people with these companies who don't necessarily have humanity's best intentions in mind, they just are about ratings and money and what will produce profit. They see that and they're like, well, okay, let's make it scary and dark or whatever, because that's really what's going to get people's attention, to have their eyeballs glued to the screen. And so they're doing it in a way just to profit. And so you have to use your discernment as to whether that's for you or not. Like, I'm always about sharing the dark, but like in an empowering way. That's why I share my vulnerable moments in my life and stuff, because I don't personally share from a place of like, let me just share all the drama that's happening in my life just because I want, I want to, or whatever. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But if I'm gonna open my mouth to share about whatever's happening in my life that's not, maybe not so, beautiful or happy or unicorns and rainbows, I want it to make sure that it's empowering people in some kind of way, that there is light there in some kind of way. And so with these things, like if they're showing these kids seeing dark things or whatever, like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but is it empowering people in some kind of way? And if it's not, then maybe you don't need to watch it. Maybe that's just something that's not in alignment for you. So when you see these things kind of shedding light on the other side of the spiritual realm that may be dark, just discern for you whether or not it's something you need to keep watching, and if it's empowering in some kind of way, if it's helping you to empower yourself. And if it's doing the opposite, which is instilling more fear in you, then maybe you don't need to watch that and find something else instead. Because I do think it's valid to share these things. It's like, yeah, I see something, standing behind you or whatever, and let me find out what that is. Like, I think that's appropriate and valid, but like, are you going to do it to empower that person? Are you going to explain to them like why there's this dark entity behind them, or this low vibrational entity around them? What is the meaning behind that? What is the purpose? What is the lesson behind that, to help them move through that and then find the light? Or whether you're just doing it just to like scare them, So
Yeah, I think fear is such a detriment to light. It's it's the other side of it's the other side of light is fear. And I agree. I think knowing that it's there, but also I think the idea is if you're teaching a child, for example, how not to be afraid of something, I think it's important to be, telling them how powerful they are, and how any child, my child, that child on the show, anybody, any human being, any light worker beyond, I think teaching people they're bigger than whatever that thing is, before saying that thing is there. Because what will happen, if people don't feel powerful in their gift or powerful in their light, and then they feel like there's something dangerous out there, it'll just shut them back in, and make them shrink and go, I don't want anything to do with that. I can't deal with that, But when you go, you're a badass and you're so much better and stronger and more powerful than that. And, then people approach those situations differently. So you're right. I don't want to watch it. I do love that, again, things like this exist, like you, and it's so important, because what you see out there, what's easily accessible to people, are those kind of shows that are for ratings, and people will look for information and find it, wherever they want. But it's so important. It wasn't necessarily readily available for me when I was coming into my gifts. The things that were out there were things like that were, in my line of view. And so I'm so glad that I was able to then eventually stop and hear, you're powerful, you're a light worker, these are your gifts, you do not need to be afraid of that, and here's why. And at the end of the day, it exists, but you have protections in place, and you are able to stand and be more powerful than that. And I hope somebody takes away from this conversation that idea that, if you're running away from your gifts because you're afraid of bad things coming into the picture, you don't need to be afraid to tap into your gifts. It's different to be aware, right?
Yeah. You just gotta be aware that things exist just like anything in the world, and that your light, your love is much stronger, and that you're always divinely protected and supported. Guardian angels, call on whatever you feel called to call on to protect you. And so it's a journey that's going to be unique to everyone, and it's meant to teach everyone different things, I guess.
Absolutely. God, you are just a wealth of information. I really just I look so forward to getting to know you and learning more. It's I don't know if we even touched on what this whole roundtable is about.
No, this was just like, I don't know, a conversation, I guess. I mean, I know I had my intention of wanting to talk about levels of consciousness in business, because I think that's important. And for the people subscribed to my email list, I will put that in the comments of this video as well, pinned at the top, so you can go sign up if you want. I have to update that sign up page, but I'll do it eventually. But I shared a few emails back how I held back a lot from sharing, I guess, more of my authentic soul's truth in so many ways for so many reasons. And I didn't recognize that at the time because I always felt like I had always been really honest about who I am and what I'm going through. And I'm just like one of the most honest, transparent people out there. I think that I know.
Mhm.
I'm like always
Mhm.
sharing, and whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, I'm just like, there is no one like me. Like I'm the only
There's
one
not.
out there.
There's not. You're a
Yeah.
unicorn.
Yeah. Thank
You're
you.
a unicorn. And I've only just started to watch your videos, and I really I find it so refreshing to hear all the sides of it, because you are on your own journey. You're helping people come into their light and go on their journey and step into this. And you're not afraid to say, I don't have all the answers every time, and I go through my own things, and
Yeah.
here's what it is, and hopefully somebody can relate to that. But also, here are the things that I might be able to help with, that I do know, that I feel I need to share because I was given that information to share to help people. That's where I feel my calling is. And so I appreciate that so, so much, because it's just not out there. I mean, I've been looking for it, and it's really just not out there, where you have both sides, people that are both real and so willing to offer their guidance.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never wanted to be the, I think it's just been a journey for me. It's been a journey of maybe, do you have time or do you have to go to work?
No, I have time. I have another 23 minutes.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll get to levels of consciousness a little bit. I just feel like part of the old ways of doing things in business was like you have to show up as an expert and you have to, let people know that and you know through your content position yourself to be like, yes, I'm all knowing, I'm wise, this is what you want to hire me. And it's kind of like you put on a mask to present yourself in a certain way so people could take you seriously and see you as this all knowing person and want to work with you and stuff. And I'm just done with that. Like I'm sure I did that definitely to a certain extent. I've always shared along the way me, and I just really see that, I guess, the old ways of doing things in terms of level of consciousness in business is that people thought that they needed to present themselves in a certain way and be these experts. And you have so many YouTube channels out there where people are just putting content, just sharing what they know, like especially in the spiritual community, I see so many people teaching of teaching like on a certain topic, law of attraction or manifestation or healing or whatever, and they come on and they do like this 5-10 minute video, maybe 20 minutes teaching on this thing, and then they're done. But then you don't really get to connect with them, you don't really get to hear about them and their journey and their story. And so I've really evolved in my own journey and in my own consciousness around business to really know on a deeper level, like I'm enough as I am. And my videos or my content or my channel or whatever doesn't have to look any particular way. Like I've evolved past that to the point where like I'm just me. I'm just me. And if I want to do a video where I talk with a bunch of friends on a topic, I can do that. If I want to do a video where I talk to someone from my Facebook group or my Instagram community or wherever on a certain topic, like I can do that. And I don't have to necessarily have an agenda like, oh, I'm going to, teach on this today. And like, this is the plan that we're sticking to. Like, I can just flow and I can just let it be okay. And I know that it's going to be enough and it's going to be perfect and it's going to be exactly what it needs to be. Because I'm just so much more trusting of God, of the process of the journey. I'm so much more in alignment with who I am and accepting of who I am that I can just let it be. And so earlier we were kind of discussing on like the illusions, and I've broken through lots of illusions in 2021, especially around like what I think my business is supposed to be like or look like or how I'm supposed to do things, and to really just relax back into I'm enough. I truly
Mhm.
am enough. And I can, do a video from the park if I want, or from my room, or from wherever, and I can just share and just be and exist. And I know that that will provide so much value to whoever feels called to receive that. And I don't have to try to like because I see one of the things that really personally for me kind of irritates me, maybe not as much as it used to. I don't know if it really irritates me anymore. It just doesn't feel in alignment, because in the past I did judge it a little bit, but it's like all this clickbaity type stuff and all these videos that have like these little thumbnails that are just so clickbaity, or the titles are so clickbaity, and they like, I don't know, I just feel like it's just, for me, it's not in alignment, and it's a way of, I think, people trying to control a lot, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I have to make this look really interesting to get your attention, so you notice me, so you want to click on me and get to know me and this and that. And it's just so low-key manipulation to me. That's
No,
what
I
it
think
is.
you're nailing it. You're nailing it. I loved going through your page and your videos
Yeah.
because they're so concise, and they say right on there exactly what you're going to be discussing. And it's you do such a good job of it. I mean, honestly, I think you've nailed it so much. I mean, honestly, your content, what you choose to put content out. And I just found you and I'm like, oh my God, I need to set aside hours of my time to watch this each video,
Because my
because
videos are
every
long.
single one I saw, I was like, which one do I click on? I want to click on all of them at the same time. Like, I want to know all this stuff, and it's so relevant to someone going through this journey like myself, or, anyone out there. It's all relevant. It's so relatable and real. And it's, I know what I'm getting when I click on the video, just from the like 5 that I've had the time to click through and watch. And I just think, don't change a thing, because it's so good.
You.
Your content is relevant, and what you're choosing to put content out there is so relevant. I find it so relatable, and just good. I just think you're really good at what you choose to do and put out there and to talk to, and the people that you've brought on that I've seen in the videos. I just can't wait to watch all of them and learn. And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. Because, for a long time, I struggled with that because, but going back to levels of consciousness, man, lately I've been seeing a lot of white light behind me, like in the corner of my eye these
Mm-hmm.
last few days. I'm like, what is going on? But for a long time, with levels of consciousness, like you think you need to do all these like manipulative tactics, with like the types of words you use and looking a certain way and all of these things. And that's just like, you think you need to do that to be successful, to attract the right people or whatever. And so for a long time, I had this doubt inside of me, like, man, like, should I really improve my titles? Should I really improve my thumbnails? It's been a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And learning to just be like, you know what, F it. Like, I'm just gonna do
Mm-hmm.
me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not meant to try to do things that everyone else is doing and,
Mm-hmm.
follow everyone else's strategy or whatever. Like, I'm meant to do what Stephanie feels called to do. What do I feel like doing? And I'm just such a very simple and practical person, like no frills. I'm just like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? Let's just do my basic ass thumbnails. We're gonna put a title
Yeah.
here, my
But
picture.
honestly, it's not,
Yeah.
because the content is so rich. The subject matter is so rich that you don't need all the like frames and pictures and emojicons and all the other crap. You don't need it, because honestly, your content is exactly, it's quality content, and
Thank you.
that's what matters. And the people that are looking for that in this realm are looking for exactly what those titles are. I mean, those are the videos that I want to see. I want to learn more about these things. It's what brought me here. That's why I'm here. I want to learn the things that you're putting out. And I know that I'm not alone, because like I said, I've looked for you and I found you, but it's not everywhere. I'll say that. There's a lot of people out there doing their own thing, but not a lot of people, like I said in the beginning, that are like, come on, let me help you, let me give you some guidance, let me show, let me do what I was called to do, which is to help guide other people that have light worker powers and abilities, and help move them. And it isn't that you have it all figured out, it's that you're tapped into your guides that do have a lot figured out, right?
Yeah.
It's not that Stef knows everything, it's that Stef is connected to a higher power that does know a lot, that has a lot to share, and you're allowing them to share through you.
Yeah.
And as far as the white lights around you, I mean, I think at this point, because maybe they felt you were under attack, you've drawn more, you know what I mean, more cushion,
Yeah.
like, around you.
Maybe, who knows? I mean, I've been having some crazy ass experiences in the astral realm. So like I always, every night before I go to bed now, I'm like, listen, I'm setting up my grid so that I'm protected while I'm asleep.
Mhm.
We're not doing crazy-ish no more. So protect yourself when you
We're
go
not
to
doing
sleep
that
too.
anymore.
Yeah.
Oh
Um,
gosh, I have a 4-year-old. I just conk out at this point. I'm like, oh, I'm run ragged. I'm done. Put
yeah,
a
I
fork
can
in me.
imagine. I can imagine. It take a lot of energy. I'm like, oh man, how am I gonna
Oh,
be able to do this when I have kids one day? But
you will.
real quick, yeah, like I think levels of consciousness, there is this level of consciousness in business where, the clickbaity thumbnails and the titles do work, and it does benefit you to have 5-minute long videos or 10-minute long videos because of short attention spans and all these other marketing strategy type of structures. Like for people at
Mhm.
that stage, it does work really well for them, and it benefits them, and it helps them to grow and succeed. But the thing is that for so long I doubted myself, like, man, maybe I should be doing what other people are doing, maybe I should, and I was just like not really solid in me and what I already knew. It
Mhm.
was kind of like, and this is the thing, is that when you're at a higher level of consciousness with things, you can't play in the old ways, like in the old other
Mhm.
levels of consciousness. It's like when you've seen something, you
Mhm.
can't unsee it. And so when
Mhm.
you've seen through the illusions of all of this stuff, you know, even though it's working for some people and you're up here though in your level of consciousness, and this is not to put down anyone at this other state of consciousness,
Mhm.
by the way. It's just
Mhm.
different states of consciousness. No one is either like better than the other. But when you're up here at this place and you see like, this isn't really real or whatever, but then maybe you're having challenges with moving forward in the ways that you feel called to. Maybe you don't fully believe in it. So you're like, oh, let me go try to be like everyone else and do this.
Mhm.
And then you do, and it doesn't work for you. It's because you
Mhm.
can't go back down once you've gone up. You can't, you know, see things or unsee things that you've seen, and so it's not going to work for you to play in those ways. But the thing is, like, for so
Mhm.
long I really doubted my way of doing things, and my comparisonitis, or my, I don't know,
I love
perpetual
that you
need
call
to
it
always
that.
look around like, what is
I
everyone
love that
else
you call
doing,
it that.
you know kind of made me question that and not really be strong in that. And that's been a journey. And so as I've really learned to just embrace who I am and how I uniquely do things, and the fact that, like, I don't have a strategy. I just do whatever the crap I want when I feel like it,
Mhm.
because I am a simple no frills person, and I
Mhm.
don't do a whole lot of this planning stuff. Like, that's just not what's in alignment for me. For other people who have different personalities, different ways of doing things and being how they're uniquely made, like, they might be completely opposite of me. But for me, and different lives, like, I'm sure if I had a child, I would have to be more structured, because I don't have that luxury of just doing things whenever the hell I want. Like, it's like, okay, now I have a child and I have someone else who I have to take into consideration with the things that I'm doing, so I'd have to have a little bit more structure. But because that's not currently a part of my life right now, I just kind of do whatever. And I'm just like this, tumbleweed, just being blown around by the universe, just being like, okay, we're going to do this now, we're going to do this now, we're going to. And I have no particular structure, and that's what works for me, and that's where I'm at. And so life now gets to be so much easier for me because I finally embraced myself much more than ever before, and my unique way of doing things, and like my worthiness, and the fact that I'm enough and I don't need to do things to try to fit in anymore. Like, I've
Mhm.
embraced the fact that, like, if I want to get on here, because in the past I have another YouTube channel where I did videos on travel and
I
people, like,
saw
guiding
that one.
people in Peru. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
used to get a lot of complaints back in the day of, like, people being like, you talk too much and this and that. And I used to get offended back in the day. I'm like, how dare they? They can just,
You're
like,
right. How dare you?
yeah, they can just go somewhere else or whatever. And I've really just embraced the fact that, like, yeah, I do talk a lot. I was born to talk. I was created to talk a
Mm.
lot. And I'm not just like talking like a bunch of superficial things. Like, I have legitimate, valid, important things, valuable things to say. And whoever wants to take time out of their day to listen to my whole entire conversation or videos or whatever, like, they can do that. If they need to break it down, they can do that. I don't care. Like, I'm just here to be me. And I've given myself
Mhm.
permission to do that. And so, like, this video, I was thinking it was just going to be maybe 30 minutes, an hour long. I don't know.
Mhm.
And it's just extended beyond that. And other videos I've done too as well. And I'm just like, you know what, like, it's okay. And so that's what I wanted to say there in terms of, like, level of consciousness in business, is that if you feel like all these other ways of doing business don't feel right to you, there's something off about them, chances are is that it's really not in alignment with you. Your consciousness is beyond that, and you need to step into things in a way that really feels in alignment with you, and to embrace that, and to know that you don't have to try to play by these other people's rules to succeed. You can do things your way because that's how you were made. And it's, sometimes easier said than done, because it's not like, okay, I'm just gonna like do whatever, this and that. It's like you have to do inner work to really feel that deep acceptance of yourself, that deep worthiness, that deep self-trust, trust in the greater power, that it's all working out. It's been a journey. I've been able to step into this at last because of everything I've lived through all these years. And that doesn't mean it's going to take that long for you. We're all different here. But
oh yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah, but it's like finally I've understood, like, oh, because many years ago I asked, like, I just want business to be simple and fun and easy. And it was hard trying to make it simple, fun, and easy because my ego was driving me for so long. Why is that teapot? See, this is an important message. Teapot, the tea kettle is like going crazy.
See?
But yeah, it's like, it was hard to make business fun and easy and simple for me because my ego was driving me to be like, okay, now you got to do this next and you got to do this next to like launch successfully or do this or whatever and get these. And it was just like, I'm trying to like flow with life, but then my ego is like, go this way. And it was just like not letting the energy flow. And it just felt like such an uphill battle. And now that I've really been able to lean into who I am and stuff, it's like, oh, life can be easy. Like, I don't have to do all this work. I don't have to do this and that. I can just enjoy myself. I can just be, I can just, let it be fun, let it be simple and easy, and let that be enough. And just trust in that. So that's
have you, and I'm new to this whole thing. So I know I have a million videos that I cannot wait to watch. Have you done a video about the inner work that you're talking about and what that looks like for you, what that could look like for others? Kind of what is that inner work that we talk about?
I don't have any specific like one video. I do have here on my YouTube channel a workshop that I did a few months ago. And that workshop is called Change Your Conditioning. I'm trying to go to my channel on my phone. And it's, I think, 4 videos that help you break down how to start doing inner work. And that teaches you a bit of the process of like the mental aspect. And then I have this other free mini program titled Unlocking Your Potential. And that was hosted on my friend's like webpage. She has this community of people that, are coming together to like give free support to the light workers community to help us and stuff. But I've had people tell me that they have issues with finding it on that platform. So, and I'm not sure if I'm going to create my own thing for people to just find that. If you want Unlocking Your Potential, like message me and I'll just send you the Dropbox link to the files that are there. But Unlocking Your Potential is different from Change Your Conditioning. So Change Your Conditioning is here on YouTube. I'll link it up in the cards for you to go click. There's a playlist on my channel. And that's more of like the mental aspect of healing. And then Unlocking Your Potential is more of like the emotional, spiritual aspect, because I do include a healing journey in there. And, it's these things to help you kind of heal on these different levels because, it's not an end all be all, let me tell you, because these are just to help you get started and understanding like, okay, this is what it really takes for you to start making progress with this and to actually see significant results instead of little itty bitty tiny, results. And then as you go on the journey, obviously you're going to come across things and stuff like that. And so that's where, you go deeper into your soul and you do this deeper work. And sometimes you need guidance and support through navigating all of that. So if you feel called to do that, anyone listening, you can reach out to me and see how we can work together. I typically, if you want to do very deep personal healing that can potentially benefit your business, I do my program called Remembering Who You Are. So I will link that up here in the cards for anyone who wants to check out past testimonials of clients. And that's like a very deeply spiritual, personal healing process. And we go deep into it. And then I do my business stuff, which is other programs and stuff. And that does deep healing as well. but with like a business component to it. And it's just a journey and a process. Like I'm there literally to help people, guide them to be like, okay, look, this is the lesson. This is how you need to like work through it, and I give them support and encouragement to keep going so that they actually are able to move through these things, break free, or whatever they're not seeing. A lot of times, we all have our own blind spots. We all don't see our own stuff sometimes. And so when you have someone there guiding you and supporting you, it's like they can point this out to you much more quickly. So like that's what I do as a guide is, I do provide people with the information to start with the basics of healing in those free workshops for the program. Like I said, and then like if you want further support in actually navigating it, then that's when I like work with people in programs to actually take them through the process that I know so well.
Wow. I mean, seriously, I feel so, I'll say it again, just happy that I found you. I think it was perfect alignment. I think it was my guide saying, okay, we have some work to do here, and this is where we need to start. And I'm just grateful, just so grateful. Yeah. I know I'm not alone out there, because it's there is a lot of stuff you have to work through, and I know that, I want to get ahead of myself and not do that work that I know has to be done in order to take yourself out and truly be in your gift and be, in your business and be successful in all of those things. You have to be centered inside. You cannot be all, not centered and have these things that you haven't worked through, and then trying to have a career as a light worker. It's like you said earlier, I think it always is. It's a work in motion. I mean, we're always learning, we're always growing, we're always working through our own karma and things that come up. But the fact that you can share that knowledge and still stay vulnerable is what makes you so special, because you do have a lot to offer. And we're all, I know I don't speak for myself, we're all so grateful that you're here doing this work. And please don't ever think that it's not helping anyone, because it 100% is. And obviously you feel it's your calling, and I think it's definitely benefiting me. If no one else,
if no one else me.
I'll stand up and say it's benefiting me, because there's just not people like you out there. There's people that have found their way one way or another that will tell you a little bit on their blog about how they found their way, but there's no one saying this is a guided way to get through to the next step in this journey that's very unique. It's not like light workers, unfortunately, are growing on trees right now. They're the rarity. You're an anomaly in a group most of the time, especially when you're born into this and you kind of are naturally open. You really are different. I mean, everybody can get there. I really do believe it's like basketball players or anybody that's really talented at anything, classic pianists. There are people that are just born gifted, and then there are some that can work really hard and get there, but there are people that can just seemingly pick things up and do it without having a lot of work behind that. And I think there's always work to be done to enhance it, but I feel like those people that are naturally open like myself need help on how do we make this a business, how do we make this a life path, and that's what you provide. And I appreciate you greatly, and all this time. Thank you for all your time.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you and all your kind words, and just for taking this time to have this really amazing dialogue with me. Like, I didn't know what to expect, because for a minute my ego was like, oh, but I want like more people, and to like do these things. But I trusted in perfect divine timing. I was like, you know what, God, like if it's supposed to be just me and her, like that's fine. It's going to be amazing, I'm sure. And I've really just learned to just lean into that so much more. And it's crazy because like this morning you were like, oh, can we start like 30 minutes later? And I was like, perfect. Because in my mind, you don't know, as I'm telling you now, I had woken up at like 8:30 and I like went around looking at my phone, and I was like, oh snap, it's late. I got 30 minutes to get ready. Yes, and then you were like, can we start a little bit later? I was like, oh my God, you knew Stephanie was gonna wake up late.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not ready for this. I was like at battle with my 4-year-old. I was like, put your pants on. Those are backwards. Put them on the right way. Yeah. Like, oh, I need my coffee. I need my Starbucks, and I need to center before I go on this call.
Exactly. So me too. I was like, I need to ground, meditate.
I just need to
it worked out
Yeah.
perfectly, like even before that, I was like debating, like, should we start at 8 or 9 o'clock? Because you had given that as an option. And then I was like, no, you know what? Like, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to start at 8. She said 8 o'clock. Like, I got to get this done.
I do that.
Yeah. And then you were like, can we do 9? I was like, okay, fine. And then later this morning, you're like, can we do 9:30? I was like, perfect, and it worked out. And then just like everything that we talked, I just feel like it all flowed. Like we've known each other for forever, even though we're just meeting for the first time.
Well, I feel like we must have known each other in a past life. Our guides have brought us together for some reason. And I think that's because you're a unicorn and I had to meet you.
Thank you.
It's so true too. And also I think the ability to have a community online, like you're in Lima, Peru. I've met a couple other people from Peru, and every time I feel like there are like Peruvians are the most genuine people. I don't know what it is. I just love that area. It's like every time I meet someone from Peru, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like they're just so open and wonderful people. I don't know. Maybe I'm just lucky.
You are lucky.
But maybe I am lucky. It's like, to have this community online, because it's just not everywhere, I mean, it's just not everywhere. There's a lot of, like I said, Reiki people and people that are connected, but not a huge community out there in every area that you can just go and be a part of a group that can talk about things like this and share. And it's really cool to hear that people are kind of stepping into their gifts and you're helping them do that.
There's definitely lots of different communities out there. It just depends on like what your soul is searching for in that moment. And like, I'm a very deep person and I'm not here for superficiality, like anything, especially with spirituality. And so I've been very intentional about my community. My community is a place where it's like, it's a safe space for you to share your current challenges or struggles that you're going through. Maybe you need support in that moment, or maybe you're starting to step into your purpose, but you need a safe space to start practicing your gifts and you want to start doing that out there, stepping more into your power, and you want people to practice with it or on that same kind of wavelength, or you're there to learn, about healing or business, entrepreneurship, or just like whatever related to spirituality and personal development. And you want to benefit from other people there that have things to share and offer, or you have questions, like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Can anyone send me resources or whatever? And so I've just been very intentional to make it what it is rather than maybe what other groups out there, because there's different types of like spiritual groups out there, and my group, I feel, is more centered around helping people to step into their own leadership role, their own power, and not like another type of spiritual group where, no offense to them, but I've seen a lot of spiritual groups where it's just like all about card readings and like psychic readings, and that's all it is. And I'm personally not super in alignment with that, even though it does benefit some people and some people are aligned with that. But I feel like a lot of times people, depending on who set up the energy, the group, people go there from a place of disempowerment, and they're like, I need just someone to tell me the answers. I need someone to tell me what to do next. And, I feel like sometimes the energy can get messed up there. And so I allow psychic readings in my group, but I just want to make sure like people are coming into it with like the best of intentions and stuff, because I don't want to have it, become something else.
And that's the vulnerability that I love about you and that drew me to you, and your group in general, is that it has focused approach, but it's also with the idea that spirit runs the show. And at the end of the day, it's going to bring people and bring energies to the group that are going to be helpful to each other.
Yeah.
So you're not a lot of it goes back to like my thoughts about religion, which is there always has to be somebody that's the keeper of all the knowledge. And you don't have that ego. You don't have that I know it all, I need to be the one that can tell you. And other groups do tend to have that, where there's one person that needs to teach everybody the exact way and tell them what they should know. You're like, I'm just going to tell you what I know and like what and if that can be useful to you, then that's what I want to put out there, because it's been useful to me. And there are other ways that you might experience this or that you might come into your power, but here's a way, here's a way. And it's, and you allow other people to have a voice and say, this is how I'm doing it. And so it's this collective place of information that I see just from my limited time being here, and that the sense that I get of the energy from the group, that's awesome is that you let it be a collaborative space. It's a collaborative space. It's not Stef Ventura is going to teach everybody exactly what they need to know in every step of the way. I mean, but you know, that's just it. And like, because of that, you're learning and you're growing and you're able to put so much more out and offer so much more. We all are. We're all light years ahead because we learn from each other. There is no I know it all, because we're all different and we all are on different spiritual paths. And that is one of the things that can be so alienating. Like, I remember that was a big lesson for me. And it was funny because one of my medium teachers that I had gone to, that's like, she's written books and she's awesome. And she happened to work here. And she was one of the first medium I ever saw. And she was really great because she said, I was in this, when you first come into your gifts and you start having experiences, you want to run around and tell everybody, you know, oh my God, I can hear people. And, you know, it's exciting because you're learning these things, but it's also very alienating because when you share it with people, they get what I like to call psychic envy. So that's people that think, well, why don't I have that gift? Or why do you think you're special? And I remember that being especially hurtful for me when it came from a close friend of mine that I was, you know, sure that she would be happy for me. And instead it was like, I don't believe you because I don't have that, you know? And I remember feeling very alienated and lonely and like, oh, this, you know what I mean? Like, you want to talk to someone? It's such a big thing. And there aren't a lot out there, especially at this point, you know. It was a long time ago, but it was,
I'm like, how old are you? Because you look really young.
I'm like 39.
Huh? 39?
No, I'm 39.
You look so young.
Yes.
Your skin looks so smooth.
Thank you. It's a filter and makeup. No, it is. I do believe in skincare regimes. I've recently gotten into serums. I'm a big serum person right now. But I came across this video by this medium that she had put out on YouTube, and it was like perfect timing. It was like she had put this out because she knew that I needed to hear it. And
you were ready to receive it.
I was ready to receive it. And it was the perfect timing because she said that everyone's spiritual journey is singular. They are, you know, you can share, but like everybody is on a different path, and that has to be okay. And the idea that if somebody doesn't understand what you're going through, you can't let their path become yours. You need to understand that you don't need to be mad at them for not understanding. You don't need to be resentful that they're not believing you. You just need to say, they're not there yet. Yeah. You know, they're just not where you are, and you're a little bit further ahead, and they'll get there. That doesn't make them a bad person or, you know, somebody who doesn't care. It's just they're not there. But if you constantly say, well, if they aren't seeing it and they don't believe me, then is it even real? And you're asking yourself those questions, you're limiting where you're at in your journey. And that's not fair either. So you have to say, I am at this place and not everybody's going to be there. And that has to be okay. I'm not going to be mad at them. It's just they're not there. And it allowed me to really step into this and say, I know that I'm alone in a lot of ways here. You know, I know that when it comes to like my inner circle, I am the unicorn of that group. I'm not going to get that from this place, which is what makes this so important for people like me. And you know, people like me, anybody that's open to their gifts, because you need a space where you can come and be like, yeah, this is happening, and other people call it crazy or wow, that's nuts, but it's not. It's part of our day-to-day life. It's part of what we're experiencing. And if you don't have the right kind of place to go with that, or if you take that to another group, like you said, where somebody has to be the information keeper, it's not a collaborative space. That's really, really dangerous. And it can be misguiding, and then it can also make people question their experience. And that's where I think you are the unicorn, because you don't do that. There's nothing alienating about this space. There's nothing that says your journey is wrong because it's not this, or you should do this way because it's that. And you allow people to come and say, bring what they have to the table and give it a space, and let it be awesome. And like, not just like, oh, cool, you're here with your gifts. It's like, wow, I found that really enlightening. And people can do that with the information you bring. And I just think it's fabulous. It's the only thing I've seen out there like this.
Thank
So
you. It's
keep
taken
doing
a
it.
journey to get to that place because let me tell you, homegirl Steph over here has had to work through her ego a lot. And with being a little smarty pants know-it-all, I've had to really work through my stuff, allow the universe to humble me and to recognize like I do know a lot, but I don't know
Hmm.
it all. And,
Hmm.
you know, I can't be imposing what I know uh, on other people for so many reasons. And I just have to really just stay humble and like own my leadership position, own the fact that I do possess wisdom that most people probably don't have. But the fact that like I'm not this all-knowing being and I'm superior or whatever in any kind of way, or I know better than other people. I'm just like, you know what?
Well, let me tell you what, I went all the way back to 2017 stuff, and I started, way back because that's just who I am. I like to start at the beginning. And from the beginning, maybe you think that, but from the beginning, you have been putting out this energy that I just said. From the
I
beginning,
love
you've had
that.
that energy.
I
I
did
mean,
a good job
I
of
mean it. I
putting up a
totally
front.
feel that energy was exactly what came out in your videos, whether you were feeling something else when you put it out. Your energy today is what I saw in 2017, and it's great. I'm like, wow, she's consistent, like look at this consistency. It's always been consistent. I don't think you've had an ego at all.
I'm gonna tell you, girl, I did, but
Well, it was
work through
hidden. It
it.
was
I worked
hidden.
through it.
I did not see it in the video. I did not sense it. I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. I
Yeah,
just am drawn, and I can't wait to share you with other people. And
thank you.
I know people have probably stopped watching our video at this point because we're just gabbers. We're just chatty Cathy's.
No,
I feel like I want to
there's
like haul you away to an island and just spend hours around a campfire talking to you forever.
and I could sit there and talk to you all day. No, I'm sure there's probably like a couple of people still at the very end. If this is you, let us know in the comments below. You're a super fan. But
Seriously.
but yeah, I've definitely had to work through my own ego a lot in many different ways. Of course, I always did my best to lead from a higher place. Like when I channel messages and things like that, like I always do my best to allow spirit to take over and put my own personal stuff aside and just like bring forward the information. So maybe that's probably why it didn't come out. But it's definitely been a journey for me to work through my ego and to stop thinking that I know so much or whatever, and to just be more humble, like literally just be so humble. Like, for example, a quick thing that I can tell you, because I know you have to go, and for anyone interested, I have this playlist here on my channel called Spiritual Bypassing and Spiritual Activism. And
Mm-hmm.
I did those videos also because I was feeling called to do them, but also because it was just part of my own journey as well. Because last year when the whole COVID stuff happened, I had like my own personal stuff, like singular views around COVID stuff. And I was just like not on board with what everyone else in the world was, doing. And that's just like me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my own judgments and things around that. And the universe, obviously, if I'm here to be a teacher of love, of helping people to reach higher states of unity and love and compassion and acceptance, like I have to be that too. And so the universe did a really good job of humbling me and helping me see beyond my own perspective and beyond my own judgments, and to really open my heart and to not be so just like judgmental and stuff, and to like work through that ego some more and more and more. And it's just been like a journey all these years of like constantly like breaking that down a lot more and more, so that I can have better relationships, so that I can allow myself to be who I really am, instead of continuously like putting myself down or whatever, so that I can be more accepting of other people that I
Mm-hmm.
interact with. And so, yeah, it's been a journey, but I'm glad that, it's gotten better, I guess. Like my intention with what I started with back in 2017 to like help people and just, not be this like, I don't know, talking head or whatever, like I know what's best and whatever. Like I'm glad that,
Mm-hmm.
that has improved and gotten stronger, I guess, over the years. Like that was my intention then, and it's gotten even better now. And I've like really embodied that
Yeah,
now.
well, and the unique thing that happens is because when you set out on this journey, there's not people immediately available within arm's reach that you can talk to about this. You go into this space where you have to heavily rely upon your guidance from spirit guides, and how that works. And it kind of is this thing where it's like, if you were told something by a spirit guide that you put your trust in, because that's where your trust should be, and that differs from someone else and what their spirit guides have told them, or how it works, or what have you. It's really hard to let go of that knowledge that you were given and accept that it could be something else. It's kind of like, oh, that's nice, You know what I mean? Oh, that's nice. They think that way. That's the ego part of it, is like, wow, well, could that be, you know what I mean? Like
Girl,
offering it up to your spirit guides. Like I found offering it up to your spirit guides is like, for example, reincarnation. I could not for the life of me understand how we were so divided on this reincarnation thing. I'm like, I don't know how you can come as a human being with all this, knowledge, and then some religions believe you come back as a tree or a bird or I'm like, I just can't get on board with that. What is that? And I asked my spirit guides about it, and they gave me an explanation of what that is, and kind of, you know what I mean,
what did they tell
the
you?
idea behind it. So I mean, they told me that. So I also had an experience where I met an angel. I met Angel Gabriel, and this was prior to that, where I was given, through meeting him. I mean, he came in a human body, to me one night, and gave me the message that I was always protected at the beginning of my journey, and then came and disappeared. I mean, literally walked up to me, sat down, and then when he left, I knew he was going to leave like that. I felt like I didn't even need to watch him leave. That's a whole nother story. During that time, when I met him, it was as though I had this out of body experience for a hot minute, where it was like I saw time. I understood
Oh, yeah,
time.
yeah,
I understood the linear time, and I knew I had known him before, and I knew I would know him again. And it let me see how short of a blip a lifetime is, It's like, oh, wow, this is so short. And so having that perspective of how knowing, having had that experience and knowing how short our lifetime actually is, my spirit guides gave me the description. They like to use descriptions of like chutes and ladders. So the idea that when you get to the other side, when you leave your human, your body here, and your soul goes back to the source. I know that looks different for a lot of people, so I call it the source. When you go back to the source, you are again in a place where you have all the knowledge that you need. This is just I'm not saying this is what everybody should believe. This is what my guides have told me. You go back to a place where you understand everything again. So you don't always carry that back with you every lifetime. I think the more lifetimes you come back, the more you retain when you come back, in some ways. But when you get there, you go, oh, I want to go again. It's almost like if you're at a water park, and you go up and you wait in line, then you go down the slide, and you're like, well, that was fun, And so maybe you want to come back down again. Maybe you want to go hang out in the wave pool for a while. Maybe you want to go in the lazy river. That's kind of what eternity is. It's a long time. So when you're looking at it from the other side, knowing you have all this time and eternity and how short a lifetime is, you don't think twice about going back down the slide and coming back here, because I mean, when you go down the slide, once you're at once you're in it, you're like, okay, now I'm alive. You got to go through the life and do the lessons that you learned. But once you get back, people tend to want to come back a lot and do it again and again, because, eternity is a long time. It's wonderful over there, but it's a long time. So a lot of times people want to come back and try different things or learn different things. And also it's your choice. You're not made to come back. It's really all your choice. That's all there is on the other side, is choice and love. Choice and love.
thank you
So
for
that's
sharing
how it was
that.
described to me.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
you
no
sharing
problem.
that, and I wanted to hear it because I just love how spirit communicates like answers to all of us in different ways that we will be able to get for ourselves, and that other people will
Mhm.
get it. Like they just use different metaphors, different things. Like I'll see different things. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm seeing. And then like that makes sense to me. It makes sense to like the person receiving it. And it's always like different from person to
Mhm.
person. So I just thought that was really awesome how they explained that to you. That's why I
Yeah,
love
it was great. I asked them about religion too, and why that's all messed up,
what did they
and
tell
how
you?
that can be so divided. So they gave me that my guides must be comedians, because they're pretty funny, and how they give me
Well,
what
you
I'll
seem like a funny
understand.
person. Like you have a good
I
sense of
feel
humor.
like I am. I can be very serious on days, I get nose to
Of
the
course.
grindstone and frustrated easily, but I try to keep it lighthearted. Yeah, when I'm talking to people like you, it's easy because you're just,
Yeah.
hello.
Mhm.
But anyway, they told me that it is, so essentially religion, the number one and most important thing that we have on earth is free will, and that includes the ability to choose what we believe and not believe.
Yeah.
So the idea that whatever is in charge, whoever is in charge, chose not to make themselves known, because if they did, our free will would be gone. Now we know who's in charge. we now have fear or devotion to that being. So the idea that no one powerful being can come down and just say, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm this being that's in charge of everything, if there is such a being, is because free will is number one of most importance on earth, is our ability to choose or not choose, to believe or not believe, to learn. It's a space where we learn. And so the idea is that the higher power, that kind of whatever that looks like to whomever, the number one thing it wants people to experience down here is love. Love, 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 love. That's it. That's the number one goal of being down here, is to love each other and what that brings to everybody around you. So essentially, because there's different people, there had to be different prophets, if you will, to communicate with the people. So hence Allah, Jesus, Buddha, people that came as essentially prophets to
Messengers.
those groups. So they explained it to me. Okay, so picture God, or the God energy, is up in the boardroom, okay? And he pulls all the prophets up. So they go up in the elevator and he says, we need to have a board meeting. Things are, all out of wonk down there on earth. Get up here, we need to have a meeting. So he pulls all of them up, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, all of them go up. So they have this meeting and God goes, I can't come down there and tell them, so you need to go down there and tell them that the whole point of them being down there is to love each other. They're not loving each other. Go get them to love each other. Done. So they're on their way back down in the elevator. And I just use these two, no offense to anybody's religion, but Buddha gets to talking to Jesus, and Buddha goes, they have their notepads and it just basically says love. This is what they're going to go tell their people that they manage. And essentially, Jesus goes to Buddha and he says, I'm really tired of people leaving their lunches in the fridge and not taking them home on Friday, and it stinks up the whole freaking workroom. I'm just going to put that down here and say it's from God. I'm just going to put that down here, and essentially I feel like that's a little bit what happened with religion, is that these ideas that were from the God energy or from the higher power got written down as from the higher power, but really they weren't. They were from man, from, from somebody else's agenda. Yeah. And that list just got longer and longer. So when it was relayed like, this is the message from above, but in truth, it's not. Truth, there's only one message, and that's to love each other. That's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because, man, first of all, I think it's brilliant that you have the questions you have, because I think that it's so in alignment with your gifts and the work that you're potentially here to do. It has to do with life after death and all that kind of stuff, creation, all these different things. And so I think it's interesting that you have those questions, because for me, those questions wouldn't be questions I ask. For me, it's of course, I know that, and I think we all have the unique questions that we are here to have to lead us in the direction of our unique soul's purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
My soul has called me forward to have all kinds of questions, like, how does the universe really work? What's right? What's wrong? What's the best way? And so I've been on this crazy journey of trying all these different things to see what works, what doesn't, what's truth, what isn't, all these different things, because that's the unique question that my soul has had of trying to figure out. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm so big on teaching people to lean into their unique soul's truth and what feels right and aligned for them. Because even though I'm here leading and I'm sharing what I know and stuff, and there's great truth to that, but take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And this is the same for everyone. I have a video on my channel called how to pick the right spiritual teacher for you, because I think it's so important to really understand that and use our discernment with who we really listen to, what we choose to believe in. And if there are people that we look up to, just how much of what they say really aligns with us and what isn't. And sometimes we unconsciously feel well, this person is all knowing, or they know a lot of things, they're awesome, I'm just going to believe blindly everything that they say. And it's no, because what I share and what I say is coming from my unique perspective, my unique lived experience, and I'm doing my absolute best to communicate what I feel God's source is really asking me to communicate. But there's always going to be a little bit of my own personal filter there on some extent, even though I do my best to, keep it as pure as I can, and just share what is. But there's always a little bit of me in there because I'm meant to be in there. That's why I exist. And
Mhm.
so that's the thing, is that these other beings who have brought forward truths from, the divine, they've done so in their unique way. And when they relate it to other people, those people then understood it from the level of consciousness and perspective that they were at, and they related in that way. And then it just kind of got all like misconstrued or whatever. And so we're all on the search of coming back to that divine truth, and we're all being led down the paths that will really help us to get there. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate your
Yeah.
story.
No, and I also think that that's a really good point that you made, and that the idea of like the universe, for example, how that works, and there's the idea of ancient aliens, and there's so many things,
All of
quantum
the aliens.
quantum physics and multi lives at the same time. There are so many avenues that like I don't know about, and I'll never say that I do or I don't. I don't know, and I feel like I just take all of the information that comes in and I go, wow, that's interesting, but I never discount it, and I never say, well, that can't be true, or I don't believe that. It's just like, wow, I don't know what to think, but it's so interesting that there's this, and this, and this that are out there, that these are other thoughts. I think that's so important to have that. Like, I'm going to retell a story of ancient aliens, or the, Anunnaki or the Nephilim or whatever, because it's interesting to me, but it's not like I'm telling it like it's a falsehood or it's a truth. It's just, this is something that's out there that I like to look into. But it does, I think it's so interesting to hear that that's kind of like what interests you, is like the science part, and like like the universe and how those things are relating.
Yeah.
Because it interests me too, but it's also not like, it's something that I can't, I feel like it's like, that's so big,
Yeah.
it's so big, I can't, it's so
Yeah.
big, I want to, and I do, but I can't. It's just like I
Yeah.
can't know about it, it's just too much.
But because we're all unique, that's what I'm so
Yeah.
big on. First of all, I'm an Aquarian. So
Hmm.
Aquarians are typically known for
What day are you born on?
the 29th of January.
Oh, I knew it. Oh my God, I knew it. I'm the 29th.
Oh my God, we're twins!
Yes, dude, the keepers of the Akashic records.
I
Yes.
love it.
Ah, I knew it. I knew it was the 29th. I didn't know what month, but I knew you were 29th. Yes.
Oh my God. So you're also born on January
Goosebumps.
29th, or just the
I'm
29th?
born on April 29th.
Okay, I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, my best
Yes.
friend is also called Jessica too. I was like, oh,
Oh my gosh.
amazing. Jessica.
Related.
I'm
My
gonna
best
be with
friend
her
is called
today.
Stef Ventura.
Huh?
And my best
Oh
friend is
yeah.
called Stef Ventura now. I don't know who my
I
best
love
friend was before, but it's you now.
it. Thank you.
Yes.
I
I
love
have two
everything.
sisters. I have two sisters that are my very best friends. I'm blessed. I think my older sister was a guide in another life that decided to come back as my, live
Probably
this life with me. But yeah, I just am blown away that you're the 29th, because the 29th in tarot, I don't know if you follow tarot,
a little bit.
is
Yeah.
tarot, the 29th card is always the high priestess. And the high
Ah,
priestess is the keeper of the Akashic records, which is where some believe is the collective of information. So when you come here on earth and you live your life and then you take it back to the collective, it's where all that knowledge is stored. It's kind of the halls of knowledge, if you will, on
yeah.
the other side. Again, I'm not saying that this is the truth or not the truth.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
you know,
I
but
love that because a little bit about astrology and stuff, like Aquarians are like known for being humanitarians, and a lot of times it's because we have a broader perspective, because we see like
mhm,
how it impacts everyone. And sometimes, depending on if an Aquarian is operating in their highest form, we can be, or lowest form, if we're in our lowest form, we can be very judgmental and be like, what the hell, like why don't these people see that this is wrong, this is hurting everyone, like, and we care so much,
mhm.
even though people think that we don't care, we're not emotional, whatever. And every
No, I
is
don't think
different.
that. Both my
Yeah,
parents are Aquarians.
we're blessed.
Seriously, I do think so. I really do. I wish, I'm jealous and envious of you, Aquarius.
No, you got to learn
Aquarians.
to love and accept you, the Taurus, right? That you
I
are.
know. I know. I'm just so steadfast. I want to be more fluid like you water signs.
No, girl, let me tell you, every sign has its challenges. And that's been one of my biggest challenges as an Aquarian, is like so logical, so analytical, like trying to figure
Hmm.
out the answers, very knowledgeable. But at the same time, because it's very much of the mind, I'm on the spiritual path. And that has
Hmm.
nothing, like that's the opposite of this. And like
Yeah.
learning to balance that and lean into that. And so what you were saying earlier, about what were you saying about truths and stuff like that, like leaning it, about people, like you said some example, like your guides might be telling you something and then you interact with someone whose guides are telling them something different or something like that. You said something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that
Yeah.
has been like such a huge challenge for me because I'm like, okay, I know I work with guides of the highest integrity. And then I'm here
Mm-hmm.
interacting with other psychics that I know, like a lot of the people that I'm close to that I've known for years now are very powerful psychics too. And they work with the high integrity. And so if they're telling me something, but my guides are telling me something else, I'm like, crap, like what the hell do I believe? Like, what is the truth here? Because I'm always seeking
Yeah.
the truth. And I'm like, I trust them, but I trust them. And so like, what is the right answer here? And that's been such a lesson for me, like learning to trust in what I feel is right. And like, bless you, you're probably doing the best that you can. This is a lesson for all of us here. I have no idea, but
Totally.
I'm going to go with what I feel is right. And
Yes.
goodbye to you.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's that idea of a collective space of information, and again, it's the idea that we're all on our own path. So you have to respect your own journey in order to be true to yourself. But that doesn't mean that you're allowed to go around judging other people on where they're at in their journey, or and that's actually helped me even like politically,
Yeah.
being divided politically with people, and obviously I know I'm smarter and better than they are. Said everyone's ego everywhere.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like human rights issues, like I very much am a Democrat, and all the way. I'm just, it's hard for me to understand Republican sides of things. They tend to be very like, I won't get into it, but at the end of the day, it's with my own father, who's the opposite of that,
Yeah.
hasn't been his whole life, but now is. It just allowed me to kind of go, okay, well, you're on a different journey. You just don't understand yet. And that is okay. Like it's just not where I am, like it's allowed me to do that in other facets of my life, not just in this realm, but in other facets where it's like, you stop, it's just, it kind of drops off the judgment of people, if you will. It drops that edge off of judgment and just goes like, okay, like that's okay. Like that's where your path is. And that's okay. I'm not going to judge you or hate you for that. It's just not, I'm not going to, don't expect me to gauge my path based on that.
Yeah.
So I won't judge you for being where you are. But don't expect me to come down to where you are either on your journey, because I'm just not there. So it's kind of like this equal agreement not to judge one another about where you're at on your path or the information that you have. And then beyond that, it's taking people who are in this world of learning and knowledge and and going, wow, that's so cool, like I love to hear about the science part of your journey, because those are the things that I kind of catalog in my brain and go like, I can't fully grasp it because I just don't have that in me to fully grasp, but I love to learn about it and I love to hear about it. And it's not that I'm like, that's a liar, that's a truth. It's like, wow, this whole other line of thought, it's just like a wow, it's like a bulletin board. You just pin things on constantly and you're like, ideas, 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 ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, I love that you said that, because we're all unique and individuals, and some of us are meant to, because of who we uniquely are and what we're here to do, we're meant to be focused on certain things. We don't have to try to figure out the mysteries of the universe or whatever. We're meant to like
Mm-hmm.
figure out the things in our unique field, or the stuff that we're meant to be focusing on. We're not meant to be doing all of this. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
perfect just the way you are, and don't try to
Mm-hmm.
go out there and explore these things because I am or anyone else is or whatever, if it doesn't speak to you. Like allow yourself to be guided to wherever you feel called to go. And if that's not where you're feeling called to go, you just kind of have information brought to you from time to time as is appropriate. Like that's okay. That's okay. That's enough. That's who you
Mm-hmm.
are. And me, that's who I uniquely am, is like, I'm always trying to learn more and figure out like the mystery of life and everything. And like my brain is like a supercomputer. And it's really interesting
Yeah.
because I don't know, like I now listen to things on like twice the speed or like 2.5, because I'm just like getting all this information and like really, really, really fast. Unless it's like something
Yeah.
new, I like listen to it on normal speed. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm just taking it all in. So that's who I uniquely am. Like I'm meant to be this person seeking the answers and figuring out like the connections between all things and like what really matters and stuff. And I don't know if you know about human
Mm-hmm.
design, but like in human design, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
projector, and the projectors
No.
are kind of like the leaders of people. So you have like many
Mm-hmm.
different types of people in the world and how they're intended to function, I guess, in the world. And from human design, I take what resonates and I leave what doesn't. I don't take it as like this absolute thing either. I'm like, I just take the bits and pieces that resonate. So the bits and pieces that resonate for me are I'm a projector. Projectors are the people that kind of direct the energy, and they're like, okay, this is, how we need to do things. So you have the people that are kind of like the workers, the generators, and they're the ones with all the energy to do stuff. Then you have manifestors, who are the people who initiate what's going to be done. So they get it started. Then you have these people called manifesting generators that are a mix of the two. And then you have projectors like me, who are like, okay, so we got the people who are doing the work. We got the people who started the project. Now I'm going to lead the project. And like, this is how we do things. And then you have these people called reflectors, who are there like observing what we're doing to see, like, giving us feedback on what's going on. And so I'm here to lead. And so part of me being uniquely who I am and how I was made is like, I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to like always get all these answers, all this information, because I need to see the connections. I need to see what works, what doesn't. I need to see like how we can make this more efficient and better and lead us in the direction that's ultimately for everyone's highest good. And so that's why like, I am who I am. And back to what you were saying.
That's a lot to take on.
Yeah, it is, girl.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
It is. A lot. But you know
what? I mean, you're doing it. I mean,
I know I am. Still
I
there.
think you're doing it. And honestly, I think you're doing it in a way that's a little different than what you just said, because you're guiding something, but it's in a let's bring ideas in and then guide it into this one focused place, like your channel and your Facebook group. And so you are leading the project, but with not so much ego that you feel like you need to give all the answers and fit all the pieces together. It's more like, you know what I mean? We have all these different ideas coming together into one space, but somebody does have to start the channel. Somebody does have to initiate these conversations and these roundtables, and you are doing that. And that's amazing. I mean, that is a huge feat right there. Not a lot of people want to do that or have time for that, or, it's just not in their, if they did it, you wouldn't be a unicorn. So,
Yeah. And also like what you said a minute ago on, dang it, I have to like get my train of thoughts. Like, what's wrong with my, that's because I haven't eaten yet today. That's why my energy is like, is learning to trust in our own guidance, in our own journey, and remembering not to do it from a place of ego has been such a powerful journey for me, because as I interact with people and stuff, like I'm able to, and this is not coming from a place of ego, this is coming from a place of truth, for me at least, is like I know who I was when I was with ego. So I know who I'm being now isn't from ego. And so now when I interact with people and they're like making certain decisions or saying certain things to me, to them, they might feel like it's coming from a place of alignment. They might feel like it's coming from a place of their highest guidance, but I can see that it's not. It's actually their ego driving that. And in that case, it's been tricky for me, because I'm like, I can see that this is not the highest way, or what they're doing is quote unquote like wrong. Like they're not.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I got it. So you are in the position of knowing it intuitively that this is coming from a place of ego, but not wanting to call them out because you don't want to be in the space of denying someone else's spirit guides information. So you're in that weird, tricky place. But I do think that as a coach, that is a really tricky thing to be in, because you're like, but I think what it is saying so teachers and leaders are interesting, because leadership where you are there to facilitate, you're like, use me as a stepping stone to get to your next level, is where leadership is. That's what leadership is. Leadership isn't listen to me talk and then follow along and do what I do.
Yeah.
Nobody learns that way. Nobody is led that way. As fun as it is to lead that way, as fun as it is for the person to lead that way, nobody behind them actually wants to follow that. The people who are like, what can I do to lift you up, are the people that end up truly being leaders. And that's where you stand. You're in that place. That's where I get the vibe from you, is that you're standing in a place of like, use me as a stepping stone to get to your next level. What can I do to help you facilitate that? Whether it's this 2.5 hour long phone call or it's a different roundtable or whatever, whether you see it or not, you are coming from that space. I think it's a matter, and if you don't mind, if I may, is say, question someone's information, have them question themselves. Do you think this is coming from a place of ego, or do you think this is coming from a place of you know, where you are, or maybe this knowledge that you're bringing, for them, they might need to find that out by their own. If somebody's holding tight to a piece of information, sometimes you have to let them hold on to that, you know, and all you can do is just throw a little blibbit out there to say, just ask them, you know, do you think this is coming from a place of ego or is it not, you know? And then what they do with it from there is on their own journey. Again, it's back on them, you know, because you can't force that. You can't force someone. And also, it's a hard thing because they've enlisted you, they've asked you to help coach them. So, you know, it's like, I think you're safe to offer that opinion if you see it, you know, and just say, I sense that this may be coming from a place of ego, just based on my own journey through my own ego, you know?
It's been such a tricky thing to navigate because I haven't had, these are like all the mind fucks that I go through with
right,
being who
exactly.
I am. But it hasn't been such an issue with clients so much. It's been with like potential clients or people, I don't know, I guess maybe that follow me.
Wait, have I done that? Have I done that to you?
No.
Okay, good. Is it me you're talking about? Just
no. But it's like, and then like, even if I tell them like, hey, well, just double check, make sure it's coming from this highest place. And then they're not able to yet maybe discern the difference between ego and soul. So they're like, no, I feel it. Like, this is right for me. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I won't argue with that. I will just let it go. But then there's this part of me that's like,
well, you're supposed to guide them,
you know? Yeah. And I'm just like, you know what? I just have to let it go. And I'm not gonna, I don't think ever say like, well, based on my own experience, like this feels like it's coming from ego, unless like, if it's a potential client, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to put doubt into them in any kind of way. I'm gonna be like, okay, well,
got it.
You know, this is going to serve them later on down the road. Eventually they'll recognize like, oh, actually that time I was actually really coming from ego, but I didn't realize it. You know, I thought I was trusting my higher guidance. I thought that was my higher guidance. And so I just let it be and I let it play out. If it's my clients, I'll be like, all right, well, listen, can I share something with you? This feels this way. And I call them out and then I just like bring up all the information, all the things that I'm, you know, feeling and stuff. And then they're able to usually like recognize it, you know, because that's what I'm there for. Like, I can't let them just slide like that. Like, I'm there to facilitate. So that is a tricky place to be in, where you are trying to help somebody grow because you don't want to be a yes man when you're in a position of coaching someone, but you also understand that there's so much variance to a soul's journey, you know? So it's that idea of like allowing them to learn on their own without being like a, you know, non-coach, if you will. Right. That is a tricky situation to be in. And also everybody has different learning styles. You know, there are people that that's a tricky thing, is there are people that want you to tell them when they're right and tell them when they're wrong, but that's just not what being here is. It's not for someone else to tell you you're right, you're wrong. You know, it's for someone to say, this is for you to learn and I'm here to help facilitate that learning. Why are we even talking about this? Is it something that, you know what I mean? I love that you said that, because like, listen, anyone watching ever, if you think I'm gonna tell you all the time what to do or not to do, like, I'm not that person. I'm here to empower people and to help them to trust in their true divine inner guidance, in their true soul's wisdom. And I've had clients in the past who have relied on me a lot. You know, they've like messaged me like, oh, this and that. And I'm just like, okay, like I will always redirect my clients to like go within, do the inner work, find the answers for themselves. And it has been frustrating for my clients sometimes in the past, because they do want me to tell them, like, spell it out every single time. And I can't do that, because if I do that, I create codependency, and I'm not here for that. I'm here to help people step into their power. And so even though maybe initially it triggers them or whatever, they eventually understand it's for their highest good. And then they thank me for it later down the road. And they're like, oh, thank God, you know.
Of course.
And it pays off in the end. Like, that's what allows me to have peace of mind in knowing that, like, once they're done working with me, like, they can go out into the world feeling much more confident in their ability to guide themselves, lead themselves. You know, that's what I'm here for. So if you want someone to tell you the answers all the time and to constantly like reassure you all the time, like, I'm not that person. Don't come to me.
For sure.
You know, I will do that as I feel like it's appropriate.
Because then when someone tells you the right way or the wrong way, you aren't to blame. you know?
Oh, that too.
Like they're not to blame if you tell them one way or another. And yeah, I think it's a good thing that you're doing it that way. I've noticed such a leadership style within my corporate world. And I'm very appreciative of the leadership style that I have, because it's different than anything I've ever experienced. There are no egos, and I've had 3 different directors now, and each one is better than the last, but also very, very good in the way of like, what can I do to help? You know, whether it's a deadline or anything. I mean, I'm very blessed in that way, even though I know that it's not my soul's calling. I'm
Yeah,
blessed in that way to have seen that leadership from this job. And maybe that's why I ended up
you're
here.
there. Yeah.
You know, and then I was listening to a podcast by Brené Brown, and she was interviewing Joe Biden, and she was talking about leadership styles and the idea of her study of leadership styles, and how true leaders are really there as like I said, a springboard for the people to get where they need to go. It's like, how can I help you do this? You know, so if helping someone do this is different, it looks different for every person. But at the end of the day, it always comes back down to like, you're not doing this for me, you're doing this for you. And I'm here to help you get to the next level, not the other way around. You know, I'm not here because you need to validate something for me. You know, I'm here to help you get to that next level. And whatever that looks like in this situation is what I'm here to do. So just, you know what I mean? Tell me what you need me to do. It's kind of reversing the tables, you know, like, what is your unique journey that I can help with? And what is this unique situation that I can help with? Whatever it is, it's that idea of we're all in the trenches working together, and those are the leaders. They're in the trenches with you. They're on the ground offering their back as a stepping stool. They're the ones who people follow, not the one above giving direction and pointing at where people should be, you know. And that's, I think you really do a good job of that on your channel. I've not had you work with me directly, but yeah, I think people expect the other leadership style because that's what's prevalent. That's how people are used to being led,
Yeah.
from their parents to any kind of an authoritative figure in school, all the way down the line. I mean, everybody that ever is in charge is being led by, do this because that's how it's done, and this is what we tell you to do.
It's a chain
Not,
of command.
yeah, nobody stops to say, are you doing this because it's going to serve you in some way? And
Mhm.
that's the difference when you enter the spiritual world, I feel, is that you have to do things that are going to serve you and really push you towards your real purpose, not, you know, to make someone happy or to get to the next level or, you know, get the bigger promotion. It's like, no, you need to actually like get better because, you know, that's the goal. So
Yeah, that's
I feel
definitely
that from you.
levels of consciousness in leadership, which is connected to levels of consciousness in business. It's the old way, like
Yeah.
that's the old model. People would hire coaches or whatever to have like the coach tell them like how to do things, like tell me the steps,
Hmm.
tell me what I need to do, and that's
Hmm.
like the old way of doing things. Whereas like this new entrepreneurship that we're stepping into, or new entrepreneurs that are coming up, it's like it's not about you waiting for someone to constantly tell you the answers. It's about you finding the answers within yourself. And if you feel called to work with someone, that person is there to help you to develop that connection with yourself, trust in that inner guidance from yourself, and to help you to become strong in yourself so that you can move forward powerfully in life, instead of you constantly looking up to them and putting them on this pedestal and thinking that
Hmm.
they're all superior and all knowing. So
Hmm.
we're evolving into that, and that's what I'm big on, is like helping people find the leader within, and step inside of their true power, and embracing who they really are. So we came
Yeah.
back to it full circle, like we did a little
We
thing.
did. We did. I meet people all the time that it seems like they're so happy in their simple path, and I'm jealous in some ways of that. I'm like,
I get that.
God, like you just decided what you were gonna be, and then you just did it, and like you don't seem like I mean, they really truly don't seem like they question it, or they're misaligned. It's like, it's like there's no angst, there's no like, ooh, it's like they just pick something and that's what they do for 60 years, and then they retire and then they do that, and it's like,
Yeah.
God, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I come back for this? What the hell? Why did I come back for this? I came back for all this trouble. I could have just done that. That seems so easy, And then when you know that there's a place that you go beyond this, you're like, well, why are we doing any of this anyway? What's the whole point here?
Yeah.
But that's part of what drew me here, is that's where I'm at. I need to be on that journey,
Yeah.
right?
I can totally relate to that. I
So,
felt that so many times in business,
mm,
especially where you see like the entrepreneurs that are doing the 5 step, things to
mhm,
success or whatever. And I'm like, why can't I just do that? Like I could do
mhm,
that. I know what
mhm.
it takes. But then it would just feel so misaligned with inside of me because it's like
Yes.
that's not what you're really here to teach and do. So stop
Yep.
trying to take the easy route. Get out of trying to be in their lane and get in your lane and do what you're here to do. So it's been a journey, no
It
doubt.
has been a journey. It is, and it's going to continue to be. And that's why I feel like now I'm kind of at the end of this position I'm in my corporate job. And I'm like, what is next? What is next? Do I go do another corporate job from here? Like, and eventually you do enough of that. And you're like, I'm a Taurus, I'm stubborn.
Yes.
Like, oh, where's the brick wall I can beat my head against? Sweet. Found another one. Great. So it's that idea of like stopping, just going to the next thing and doing the same,
Yeah.
I think you said it before, doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like you gotta sometimes just stop and go, where am I in this? Where do I fit? Where's the true me? And there's something so freeing about that. Even just thinking about the idea of like jumping into a full-time entrepreneurship with my medium skills feels so great, and it's that being led by your feeling,
Yeah.
what feels right. People are just, they're like me where they've felt that before and then were wrong. And then you're like, God, I don't ever want to trust myself again.
And you got to
And I
work
think
through that
that's
trauma
where
because that's a trauma.
I know I do. I do. It is a trauma and I need to work through it. And that's the hard work that I need to do before I'll be fully ready. But, if anything, finding this channel has led me to realize like this is where I need to start. I need to start that healing process. I need to start with fixing those things before I can lead others or give messages to others, and and just start somewhere. So for that, I'm grateful.
And just real quick, because this reminded me of something I wanted to say earlier that I forgot, is I think a lot of people in the spiritual community who want to be entrepreneurs think, and it depends on who you are and like what you're here to do specifically, but kind of like what I was saying earlier is like, oh, you just want it to be easy. Like, I just want to do, what these people are doing, have that simple life, that simple business model, and just,
Mm,
do it. But when you're a spiritual entrepreneur, especially anyone connecting with me and my energy, like I'm here to help humanity. I'm here to help raise consciousness. I'm here to help people come back to love. And
mhm,
we have to oftentimes go through our own spiritual journey that really brings up a lot of stuff that we have to process to teach from that space and to hold a higher level consciousness and higher energy and be stronger in ourselves to lead others. And so it's a process. It's not just going to happen overnight. So if you are an entrepreneur that's struggling with, moving forward with your business or whatever, like I want you to understand it's part of the process, it's part of the journey. You're not here to be like everyone else. No offense to them, but they came
mhm,
here for their more, I guess, straightforward, if you want to call it that, because we all have our own challenges. Like I don't even want to dismiss the challenges that they go through because, people who have like an easier time in life, they have to go through things as well in their own way, whatever they came here to experience in life. But a lot of times it's maybe not as intense as ours
mhm,
is as spiritual people because we have to go through those things to prepare ourselves for what we're here to do. And so if you're struggling, it's part of the journey, it's part of the process. Do your best to embrace it, seek support when you need it. Do your
mhm.
best to connect more deeply to your spirituality to help you get through it, and take like listen to that inner feeling, that calling of like wherever you feel guided to be and do and stuff. And with you just said, goodness, my brain is like not working today.
I
I need
know we got a
food.
7 minutes, 6 minutes, and you're going to eat food. 6 more minutes.
is is with what were you saying about entrepreneurship, leaving the business, shifting into okay, what's next? You have to understand that when you feel your body, your energy expand, thank God for spirit guides because they're like putting the ideas back in my head. When you feel your energy and you feel like a sigh of relief inside of yourself, or you feel excited, ecstatic about thinking about doing something, a lot of times that's a clear indication to move in that direction for yourself. And you have to be brave enough to listen to the whispers of your heart, your soul, the divine leading you down this direction, even though it's scary, it's an unknown. Like there's two women I know in my community, and they've made really big decisions recently. Like one chose to leave behind potential retirement benefits and like certain stability and stuff with their job, you know, that they could have stayed on. And they're at a stage in their life where, you know, that is a bit scarier as well because of their age. It's like, oh man, like I should just stick it out, you know, and wait it out until I retire. And I just got a few more years to go or whatever. But they chose to take that leap. And I'm pretty sure she's going to watch this video. So if this is you, I love you. And,
Yay.
but you know, like that was such a big decision for her. And I'm so proud of her.
Oh yeah, that's a huge decision.
Yeah. But she's like willing to do that. And she's built up to that. I'm just so proud of her for listening to her heart and just doing that. And another woman as well that I know that is also in this kind of similar space where, you know, she's now really just surrendering to the universe to see like what's next, you know. And it's not an easy place to be, but you got to do your best to move yourself in the direction of where you feel like it's going to light you up from the inside out, because that's what you're intended to do. And you're going to go through some journey, no doubt, to get you to this place of being able to make that successful. And that journey might not be straightforward. It might not always feel easy, but it's part of the process and you'll get through.
Absolutely. And I mean, I remember there's always like little bits of tidbits of things that you see that you take away. And I remember watching the new Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. Oh my God, it's so good. There's this one about this guy that was a DJ, you know, and he loved being a DJ, but he, you know, had gone through some, you know, challenges. And in the show, you know, they didn't come in and were like, oh, you need to go being a DJ that parties all night, you know. They were like, no, you're a DJ. You love being a DJ. Be a DJ, you know. I mean, sure, they like helped him get a better wardrobe and like clean up his house and kind of adult in other ways that he was lacking. But overall, you know, they didn't say don't do what you're passionate about, you know. And they helped him become confident enough to share that with his family and say, look, I love this. This is my calling. This is what I want to do. And his family was, I mean, maybe it was all for TV. I don't think so. They were all very supportive of it. And it was this huge release of him owning what he liked to do. And the idea that I took away from that is that you need to own whatever it is that you feel you need to do in life. You just need to own it. And whatever that looks like, you know, I mean, it's hard because there are so many people. I mean, seriously, if there was like one thing in charge of this ego, if there was ego in charge, we'd all look like brown boxes in a row. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
I mean, because the same is predictable and people can, you know what that is. But the beauty of life is that we're not all meant to be the same. And we do have different callings. And sometimes it's being a DJ. Sometimes it's being a psychic medium. You know, sometimes it's being a Reiki healer or whatever your calling is. And I think it's that idea that I took away from that is like, own it with your people, and just yourself, you know. And these little things have driven me to this point now where I'm standing at the edge going like, okay, I need to like figure this out. I need to seek out the information from people that have been here. And that's what brought me to you. And I'm blessed to be here. Very blessed to be here.
Thanks, Jessica. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. We could talk for like
yes.
Day.
I know you need to go eat and I need to go to work. Darn it. It's okay. I can work later. It's worth it. It's so worth it. I appreciate all of your time. Yeah. Let's do this again soon.
We'll see when the stars align. But thank you so much. I love this conversation. I love interacting with you. Yes. I feel you're going to bring amazing, amazing things to the world. And I'm really excited for how you're going to uniquely make this world a better place through the beautiful gifts that you have and the powerful messages and perspectives that you have to bring forward. And I just really am honored to be in this space with you and just serving the collective.
That.
You know, so thank you so much to anyone who stuck it out with us and just hung out through this whole video. If you made it through this whole video, I will be very impressed, and I would like to know in the comments what you thought about this, what you took away from this, anything you want to share. And I'm thinking about maybe doing something like this as well in the future. Who knows? Like, I just do what I feel called to do. And so
just keep doing that.
Yeah. Join my community, join my Instagram, join my email list. All the links to my stuff will be in the comments pinned at the top of this video, where you can connect with me, because I don't have any particular place of knowing, like giving people a heads up, like, hey, I plan on doing this. Who wants to join me? Like, I don't have a particular place. I just go wherever. So if you follow me in the places, you're going to more than likely be notified more effectively. So thank you so much for your time, Jessica. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you to everyone who watched. I appreciate you, and I will see you all soon. Bye, Jess. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.